I know, that's why we don't have this.
Yeah, it's sitting at home on the table. I didn't want to put it in the car.
Hi, Janice. Hey there.
Oh, good sign.
Can I have a question? All these people just standing over here, can we have a chair to sit down? Can you provide that? for us.
I mean, we did ask for a larger facility to begin with.
Do you have enough pay enough taxes to get an extra chair, do you think? I doubt they would say yes.
I'm sure we'll work around somewhere.
What are you guys worried about? You don't care about nobody in this room anyways.
Teresa, how, you gotta eliminate that.
I
Ma'am,
mean, you
ma'am,
have
you
to,
want my chair? You're welcome to
So
it.
you can have my chair, son.
there's a lot of other people.
No, do you want my chair?
I'm talking about not just me.
Oh,
I'm representing all the other people
oh,
standing
no,
over
I can only give it to
here.
one person.
Hey, I have no problem standing. I'm not a
What I'm
Christian.
saying
I'm
is,
not parking here.
Building. Rise, pledge of allegiance, and remain standing. Take her chair. The invocation will now be said by Mayor Pro Tem Andrews.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for allowing us to gather here today. And we come together for the common good of all, to do as you have been called us to do, to act justly, to be kind and understanding to each other, to be patient with each other, and to do what's in the best interest of our residents, our businesses, and our city. Amen.
Roll call, please.
Ackley,
Here.
Ambrose.
Here.
Santo.
Here.
Black.
Here.
Lublin.
Here.
Osnick.
Here.
Woods.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have a forum. Are there any requests for agenda changes?
VP, I would
Yes, sir.
request that under council reports, number 2, that they add a trail council update, as also the interlocal agreement update.
Okay, are there any others?
Yes, Madam Mayor. On Wednesday, January 15th, I emailed the city clerk requesting some.
Wait, I asked for agenda change.
It is, I'm coming to that.
Well, say what your agenda change is. We're not in for the discussion at this point.
Well,
If you want to add something to the agenda,
Let the
say
man
what you want
talk.
to add.
They're rude. Let the man talk.
I would like to move the interlocal agreement discussion list now under the mayor's report into the new business, so we can have a full discussion on it.
We have the discussion under council report.
I have
Don't be
requested
rude.
the historic downtown district parking and sidewalks be open for, under new business for discussion. And I'd like to move it from council report to the new business.
First of all, council does not set the agenda. The agenda is set by the clerk and the city manager. When you come to the meeting, if you want an agenda change, you ask for it. If it meets with council's approval, then we change the agenda.
Well, I submitted my agenda items, all 4 of them, the interlocal, the downtown parking, the posting of meeting agendas, and the public safety campus expansion, all to the business, and they're all buried under the council reports. Will be afforded a full discussion
They
on these
are
items.
on, yes, we'll have a discussion
Then
with council.
we will leave them there. I do like to add one thing though, or a couple things. On our agenda, we have approving Robert's Rules of Order, approving a Sergeant of Arms, and the Robert's Rules of Order as our items. Now, adopting it, we do not have appointing a parliamentarian on the agenda, and I think to have Robert's Rules, we have to appoint a parliamentarian for Robert's Rules.
Do we have to appoint parliamentarian?
You don't have to do any of that, you can do that. Right now, we have your approved rules of procedure, Robert's rules. It allows you to change that or amend that or add to it, you can adopt additional rules. If you do not vote on any of those, it all continues as before, it doesn't go away. So yes, you can appoint some other parliamentarian other than me, if you choose to do that. You can appoint a different sergeant of arms. Typically, we use the member of the police department through the chief of police. So you can do that if you've got 4 votes. You can change Robert's Rules of Order by adding to them or striking parts of them. If you take no action whatsoever, it remains the same as before.
And that's why I was asking the question.
Microphone, please.
And matter of fact, that's why I was asking the question, because we are reappointing Robert's Rules as well as reappointing our Sergeant at Arms. As I understand Robert's Rules, we have to reappoint the parliamentarian at the same time.
You do not.
I don't agree with you, but I'm not positive.
No, that's why we're reappointing for the Robert's Rules. So we're not gonna appoint a parliamentarian, so I'd like to add in the agenda for a closed session, I'd like to add a closed session after the mayor's report pursuant to 15.228, Section 8, Paragraph E of the Open Meetings Act, to consult with the city attorney regarding a lawsuit, Coesis versus City of Walled Lake. We're already going into closed session. I'd like to be able to talk about this lawsuit as well.
Which lawsuit is that on?
The Coesis versus City of Walled Lake.
So you're asking for an update?
I'm asking for an update, and under the Open Meeting Act, closed session for an update.
Any counsel or the attorney have an objection to that?
No, I will, when we get in closed session, we can, if council approves it, then
When we
we'll
vote?
talk about it then.
Okay. First on the agenda tonight is auditor's presentation.
Well, first of all, since we have such a big crowd here, I'll introduce myself. I'm John Pfeffer, managing partner of the CPA firm Pfeffer, Hannaford, and Palka. We're located in Brighton, Michigan. And I would like to discuss a few matters here tonight. First of all, I'd like to say thanks to all the staff. The City of Walled Lake did a great job. They were enabling us to get the audit done timely and within the budget, so there's no additional costs. That hasn't always been the case, going way back in time, which I'll mention that later on tonight. And also a great job that the finance director, Sandra's doing. She stepped in a couple years ago to take over all the accounting. And just so everyone understands, the accounting for the City of Walled Lake is like several companies. It's not like you're just doing one set of books. It's a very big job. And as we come in as auditors and we examine the books, we're looking to see if there's certain things that maybe there should be some proposed adjustments to fix the books, to make them proper. And with Sandra, she's done a great job, but there's very few of those, if any. And why that's so important is if I was on city council, that would mean that the financial information I'm getting is very accurate. So if you're trying to make decisions, that's very important to know that the information you're getting from the finance director is accurate. So that's very important from our standpoint as auditors. And again, as we evaluate all the internal controls of the city, that comes into play, probably most important. Probably the top thing to mention tonight is that we're issuing an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level of opinion that the independent auditor can issue. The importance of this is, should the city need to go out for bonding in the future for any projects that it's got going, it will get a high rating from the city, from the state of Michigan, and so that's important from their standpoint to look at the audit report in its total. The other item I wanted to get into, which is important, and obviously we have a large audience here tonight, which I never expected to be talking about these things, but I do want to mention them so that everyone does understand it. Again, we are independent auditors. We have no interest with anybody here in council. We come in and look at the issuing of audit report and the financial condition. And I'm going to go back a little bit in time, and it's still an important issue today. So what happened is that going back over 10 years ago in previous councils, there were some legacy pension costs that have been agreed to. And obviously, you've heard this with the state of Michigan, with teachers or different organizations. There's been changes in that because it's been very difficult in some cases to pay those funds out later on in time. Well, the city of Walled Lake had a tremendous problem there. What happened is that when we came in as auditors, the previous auditing firm, which is very large, did not want to be involved anymore because they looked at that there could be a potential that a manager would have to be appointed from the state of Michigan, where they were coming into different organizations and taking over. So what happened was we came in as auditors thinking, okay, well, let's be positive about this and, you know, try to help the city of Walled Lake going forward. But what was important at that time too was, and again, obviously with this large group here tonight, they should understand, at the time, Dennis Witt had come into play with the city, and one of his big issues that he had to deal with was going forward was how were we gonna meet these demands? Because basically what was gonna happen is the city was gonna go bankrupt because they couldn't pay out these legacy retirement benefits. It was not possible. So how do you correct this? You have to make changes to the plan. Sure, there's some cuts that aren't popular. And some of the ones I'll just mention tonight that were very important in the process is that, for instance, it was very tough to do this, is that there were some situations with the police command pension division that were closed that they could no longer get. Because again, this goes back to the city couldn't pay these out in the future out of their current operating expenses. Another one was pensionable wages are based on base pay only, eliminating overtime, vacation, and longevity. So in other words, the retirement would be based on, hey, your regular pay, not overtime or other type of pay, which again was a cut for the police department or the staff. It was a tough thing to do. But what it did is it made it so that the city had some light at the end of the tunnel. And basically at this point in time, that there's a plan in place that down the road that this can be accomplished going forward. The other item that's very important is there's been no additional cost added to the debt. The debt's $10.5 million that was inherited over 10 years ago. And so so what's happening now that's very important is this debt isn't growing. Last year the city used 13% of their budget to pay $677,000 of these costs. Again, these are not helping current expenses or anything. These were old pension costs that have been agreed to going back by council. So what happened is, the good thing is that it's not being increased. And there's a plan in place with the state of Michigan to meet these future costs. So again, this is an important thing for everyone in this room to understand what's been accomplished to do that. And from our standpoint as auditors, instead of issuing a modified opinion, we would be issuing a going concern opinion if we didn't think you could meet those costs. And again, that would affect bonding, it would affect financing for the city, and we have a lot of other repercussions with the state of Michigan getting involved. So it's very important that everybody understands this. And what happened is that the good thing is council, took the advice that was given by the manager to make those tough decisions, which are very hard. They're unpopular. Obviously, you're cutting future pension benefits that, hey, I thought I was going to get. But if we can't pay for them, where is it going to come from? So this is an important thing for everybody to understand that the city has been dealing with, and us as auditors too. Because again, at first, we weren't sure that you were going to make it. And the other firm decided they didn't think you were going to make it, and didn't sign back up. So again, it's very important, everybody in this room understands that. And I think it's important for me to make, that point. Also, what you're able to do is you kept your fund balance equal. Like you didn't go in debt, you stayed within budget, which is important last year. So again, it's cost cutting. The staff is, down to, bare bones, and they do a great job, like I said. So, again, you have everybody working together to try to meet these goals going forward, which are very important. So at this point in time, you have 20 years remaining to pay off the 10.5 pension liability. And the importance is not to continually add to it, which you're not. On another smaller side, last year you added sidewalks, you added a new fire utility rescue vehicle. Also, the stormwater drainage and cleaning and inspection was improved. So as auditors, we look at, okay, these are good things that are happening. And again, you know, the city going in a good direction. So I just think it was important. I didn't, you know, realize, you know, you're going to have this kind of a crowd here, but it was very important. Everyone understands this is what the city's been up against. And we're, you know, again, we're independent auditors. We have nothing here to gain or lose by telling you what the facts are. So, you know, again, I think it's very important for you to understand this. And if you have any questions, I'll open up for questions.
Good job, John.
Okay. Thank you. You guys already accepted it.
Yes, we already accepted. Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is opening the public hearing, reprogramming community development block grant funds. I'm assuming, Connor, you're going to address that?
So today is to reprogram the Community Development Block Grant, and the reason for that is the 2017 and 2018 funds have not been spent timely or effectively, and that is a requirement of this grant. So with collaborating with staff and with Oakland County CDBG department, it was determined it would be best if we reprogrammed those funds and allow the fire department to purchase turnout gear for the men and women on the fire department. So that is what we are requesting today.
Okay. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to address now at the public hearing? Yes. Can you come up to the podium, please? State your name and address.
5 of you are not using their microphones, and 4 of you are. As a courtesy to myself, to you, and everyone else that's hard of hearing, I just ask that you speak into the microphone so we can hear you clearly. Thank you.
Thank you, because I don't have my receiver tonight,
I can
so
see
I'm
you.
having a little trouble too.
I can see you struggling to hear as well, so.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. It does come up later on the agenda. Okay, now I need a motion for approval of the minutes from November 12th, 2019. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Support? Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ambrose.
Yes.
Costanzo.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Lublin.
Yes.
Osnick.
Yes.
Woods.
Yes.
Ackley.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna go into audience participation, and I would ask if you do come up and the mic's not adjusted properly, could you adjust it? Because I am struggling tonight to hear. And for council, when we get to where we start talking, if you stick your hand up, because I may not hear you if you just start talking, okay?
Good evening. My name is Sam Barker. I'm a business owner of Liz Cleaners and Taylor and 121 East Wall Lake Drive. This is my third time, and October, November, and I'm here again with the same agenda, and that is sidewalk. It's very hazardous, and the question is, I think you all know why I'm here. When are you gonna fix it? It's a hazardous for the people, and the tripping is hazard. And so I went in DDA, which is the downtown developed area. I got all the copies over here. What I needed to know, it's all here. And I want you to know precisely about sidewalk. So this is a question to you, Casey Ambrose, Councilman. Please.
Okay, Mr. Ambrose has a report later on. This
Yes.
is strictly audience You're talking
Okay.
now, it's not a question and answer session. I believe Mr. Ambrose does plan on addressing it later in the meeting.
Okay, good.
Okay?
Please have it done as soon as possible, because this is a really tripping
He's
hazard.
addressing the question, not
Okay.
how it's gonna be
Okay.
done.
So please have it done as soon as possible.
Okay.
I know you live down the street from me, and you cannot have, not to see it.
Okay, we
I'm
understand.
sure more than me just complaining. And another thing I would like to add, can we put a security camera in the street? Because I have very unusual people come in my business.
What
It's
did you ask us to do?
security camera in the street. I'm sure we don't have, but can we have that? Because it's very important to us. Because that street traffic is much heavier than, more than, way, increased. So please, it's good for the city, good for the taxpayers. I would appreciate it if you add it to that.
Mayor, I will address that under my report we have.
Okay, thank you.
And I would like to add another one. Can you send a letter to all the business owners and do not park in front of a business area? Because we only have 11 parking. It's not enough for everybody really, and good thing, we have another parking across the street, used to be Pepino, but it's not really helping. Most of the people wanted to park close by.
Okay.
I'm included. So if you could send a letter, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, who would like to speak next? It's done by raising hands, so, okay. You need to raise your hand to come up to speak.
Got it. My name is Trisha Parsons, from Nino's Bakery, 115 East Wall Lake Drive. I'd like to discuss what's going on with our sidewalks, along with the parking out there. It is 30-minute parking, nothing gets done about it. We call and they say, well, we have to see it, and then they don't come back. The sidewalk has been brought up multiple times. We're told different excuses every time. Now, to my knowledge, I know of at least one lawsuit, probably 10 to 15 years ago, regarding the sidewalks. I've also been in touch up here at City Hall. Let's see, on Monday I called last week. Tuesday I made 2 trips up there. I was told that Dennis would be the one to make the call about moving this meeting to a larger facility. After giving round and round with them, they make different excuses, why Dennis can't talk, why Chelsea can't talk. I was flat out lied to by Jennifer over here, telling me that Chelsea was not in, which she later walked in the office and saw me and turned on and walked back out. Yeah. It's pretty disgusting. It's sad. I've grown up in this town in a family business, and this is not the right way to do things. The sidewalk needs to be fixed and the parking needs to be enforced. Everyone on the block needs to have a couple designated spots. The issue is with greenhouses, customers parking there. They have a parking lot across the street, they have a parking lot behind us. Why can't the rest of us get some parking out front?
Did I see a hand?
Well,
I see this lady here in the middle row. You had your hand up?
Me? No. Yeah.
Did you have your hand up with a white scarf?
No, I did not.
Okay.
No, I was just
Okay.
acknowledging her.
Yes.
Hi, I would like to address the issue that's going on over at Pepino's. And I think it's absolutely shameful that we have one business in the community that's bullying the other businesses. And it's the greenhouse, and I think you're all familiar with it. And we've got Nino's, who's been here for over 40 years. And their dumpster was taken away from them, the rights to use their dumpster, their parking. And basically, we've got Jerry Millen, who's a thug, who's bullying the other businesses in this city. And I'd like to know when you guys are gonna stand up and you're gonna tell them enough is enough. And you're gonna let our police department do what they're tasked to do, which is to keep the peace in the community. Because the police department, their hands are tied. And there are people that are fearful to come to these meetings. And I find it absolutely shameful. Nobody should be in fear of their community and have Facebook threats and taunts.
Then don't do it to me.
Hey, shut your mouth. Who's asking you? We're against you.
Who exactly are you
No,
accusing
right
me
there.
of being?
Excuse me, are you finished?
Hand down, little pepper.
Are you finished addressing council? Everyone, that the person speaking has the floor. They have the respect of the audience, and I would expect everyone to allow them to address council. That's for everybody in the room. Okay? All right, there's a gentleman in the back with his hand up by the window.
My name is Charles McLaughlin. I live at 425 West Walled Lake Drive. Mayor Ackley, I can actually see your house from where I live.
You what?
I can see your house from where I live.
Okay.
This summer I'll stop in with my kids. I wrote this up. 2.5 years ago, my wife and I decided to move from our previous home of 17 years. We looked into Salem, South Lyon, Livonia, Commerce, White Lake, Wolverine Lake, Farmington, even a few areas downriver. When we looked here, we fell in love with Walled Lake, and we moved as quick as we could. I actually feel protective of the community in which we live now. We feel protective of the small businesses in Walled Lake. It's the backbone of Walled Lake. I believe there's 1,600 small businesses. And it's key. We don't have any big, huge businesses. If the local plant shuts down, you know, we don't lose everything. It's one of our greatest strengths. Good times are felt by all, and the blows of hard times may be evenly distributed, may not be evenly distributed, but they're dispersed enough that doesn't break the spine of our town. It's normal for business to come and go, but when something happens that threatens the majority of small businesses in Walled Lake, we must all stand up, take notice, and right the wrong. I am speaking of not just the easement trespass that occurred by Gary Millen, but the more important fact here is the subsequent lack of corrective action by the people that are supposed to do it. And I'm not talking about the police. I actually saw the video. The police officer said he's not code enforcement. He's not absolutely comfortable making the call. And I can understand that. But it's been a while now. Somebody else should have stepped up and made the call. It's simple. Even if the Nino's Bakery doesn't have an easement drawn into their deed 42 years ago, a quick investigation by the city planner would prove that it is still convenient, necessary, and that there's no unreasonable or undue burden that's been placed on his business. It's a parking lot. People walk through there. I believe it's a city planner. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but he should step up and take corrective action, or she, don't know who it is.
Okay, you want to start finishing up?
Yep.
Okay.
I support medical marijuana and believe that people should have the choice to partake in recreational marijuana. Fine, go pot. It's not for me, but if it's for somebody else, that's fine. And that's not the point. The point isn't what Gary did. The point is, what are we going to do to make sure that it doesn't happen? Because if it happens to Nino's, who's next?
You're here.
Hi, my name is Lauren. I'm speaking on behalf of Nino's Bakery. It's my family's establishment. I want to address the sidewalks also, just like a couple other people have talked about. It's dangerous. I don't want to see anybody get hurt. A lot of the people that have been coming into our bakery have been coming there for years, you know, since I was just a little girl. And they're old. They can't get up that step. And walking over those cracks and everything, it's dangerous. I just don't want to see anybody else get hurt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Nino's, I mean, we're all here for Nino's. My uncle was an officer here 40 years ago. I remember him taking
Want
me.
to do a name and address?
Oh, Tina Thurston, 1344 Delta.
Thank you.
I remember him picking me up and taking me in Nino's in his police car when he was allowed to do that years ago. I moved out here because of the small town, because of the feel, because there wasn't a Walmart, because there wasn't, you know, big box stores. I chose this almost 30 years ago to move out here to this little tiny town. This election was as ugly as I'd ever seen. I think it tore our city apart even more. But when one business owner is allowed to wreak havoc on our city, and I don't care what your connections are with him, you owe us something more than that. Okay, I don't want to start a fight or an argument, but, and I understand he owns the property. But don't tell me you guys can't do something about this menace. Okay, he has threatened elderly women. He has threatened many people. And now he's trying to take away an establishment that has been here for years. It's just not okay. If you want, I listened to your letter or speech you said about the problems you caused with this election, Mayor, and the PPO against people, and you wanted the city to heal. Well, we need you to take a step forward now. The election's done. Half of the city didn't win, half of the city won. But now it's time to get the city back together. We need to keep this small town feel. And having somebody come in and tear this city apart like this for someone who doesn't even belong in our city is not okay. I would ask Mr. Witt from now on to please speak in your microphone. I am hard of hearing as well. I can never hear you. And I would also like an update at the next council meeting on where we stand for grants or funding for our road repair. I'm not going to bore you with the pictures of the flood that we had a couple Fridays ago. My ditch sits 2 feet high, and it was covering my ditch and going half into the new asphalt. We'd like to know.
How many pictures I saw, I was there.
Okay, right, but I live it. I live with the mosquitoes and the moisture and the mold and the, you know, I don't have allergies, and I'm developing allergies now. So we don't want to hear we're working on it. We want to see something. The Tri-A wants to see a letter of what you're actually doing to try to move forward.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Matt McDonald on 126 West Wall Lake Drive. Little story about my building. I butt up to Pepino's over there. And when they had a fire and their building burnt down, my parking was totally shut out. They came to me and they said, you know what? That's our parking, you can't park there. I had to put $40,000 in the front, to the front of my building there. Now, since then, the greenhouse had bought the lot, and instead of coming over saying don't park here, one of the owners came over and said, you guys want to park here? Go ahead, it's open to the public. So a company like that putting however much money, $400,000 or $500,000 into our community, opening it for public parking, I want to support them, and I don't really care about the medical marijuana. I understand there is some inconvenience on parking, but after what happened to me and the way they're treating me, I just want to reach out and say I'm in support of that. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else? Yes.
Good evening, I'm Karen Kolke, 179 Spring Park, you know who I am. At the last council meeting that I was at, I was mentioning about the sidewalk in front of the oil change place down there on Pontiac Trail. It's all chewed up, we've got barricades covering the sidewalk, and at the last meeting I was at, you also agreed that it was a safety concern. Nothing has been done about it. We have people who are in motorized wheelchairs, they're coming down Pontiac Trail. They can't do it on the sidewalk. I've seen 2 of them now driving down Pontiac Trail because they can't get onto the sidewalk in front of the oil change place. I don't know if it's the city's responsibility or if it is the oil change responsibility to fit. It's just a square. And it's all chewed up and it's got the barricades over it. And Mr. Casey, maybe that'll be part of your discussion after a while. Also, one thing that I was concerned with, I was looking at one of the council packets, and I think it was for the last council meeting, and there was a picture of people who have signed their names. Mine was one, I don't care who sees it, but why was that in the council packet? I'd never seen it before in the few years that I've been coming to the council meeting. Maybe it was a point to be made. To intimidate, I don't intimidate. Thank you for your time. I hope you all had a good holiday.
What were you signing your name to, Mrs. Colson?
You know, I had the white sheet here.
And that was in the council packet?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was.
Did you not see it?
Yeah,
it's there.
I remember seeing it in mine.
Thank you.
Because you're right, it's been in the packet.
Where is speak to that, I'm not aware that was in the council packet, that is a public record, you're allowed to get it, but if that was not, if that was in the council packet, had to be by an accident of some sort. But the document is a public document, and it can be FOIA'd and all that, so, we're signed in. That's the same kind of instrument that was stolen from the days here, if you folks remember a couple of years ago, was stolen.
Right.
And so it is a public record, it's a document that could be FOIA'd, but you can't steal it. It shouldn't be published like that, that's not our intent, but it's not improper. If it was an accident, I don't know how that intimidates anybody, but I probably wouldn't want my signature posted in the council. So we'll work on that. I'm not aware of it, that's the first I've heard of it.
I've never seen that.
But it is a public document, it's not a private document, and it shouldn't have been, we don't publish every document we can, certainly not in a packet. It wasn't intended to do anything wrong.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I see a hand.
My name is Donna Blanchard, and I live at 315 Arvida. You have to excuse me because I'm really upset. This Pulte project at the end of Leon and Decker, I understand the value of revenue. I can dig all that. But I would like to know why and when the Pulte money became more important than the residents of this city. I was told on election day by Mr. Ambrose and Mr. Blackwell that the water that was going to be coming from the retention pond into the drain, spring, or swamp, whatever it is you want to call it, behind my house in the center of the subdivision, which Arvida and Leon hug, was going to trickle so slowly you won't even notice it. Seriously. You need to come over to my house. Because myself, there's an awful lot of elderly neighbors who live in my subdivision who cannot come up here and express their voice. I have contacted people up at City Hall. I walk in and nobody can ever be reached. It all has to be done through technology. This is not acceptable. Okay? The water, that swamp, whatever you want to call it, that natural spring that feeds the lake, is double, at least double in size. And what you people have allowed that Pulte project to do, to put this ginormous 3-foot pipe to pour all that water down this drain that comes down Leon Street and then stops at 520 Leon and comes right into all our backyards. It's flooding out homes. It's devaluing properties. My neighbors are fighting. Water is our biggest problem in the lakes area. Of course, everybody can use Roundup and fertilizers and whatever it is they want. Personally, I haven't put my privates in Walled Lake waters in over 15 years because it is a shame as to what's going on around here. I've been here 34 years. I have put a lot of time into the kids. I have donated so much to this city. I love this city. But I'm telling you, this is absolutely ludicrous. You're disintegrating an entire neighborhood. You need to come over and consider running that drain all the way down to the end of Leon as originally talked about. Also, being that I have put so much time into the school districts, aren't we supposed to teach our kids no bullying, no name calling, no manipulating, none of this crap that has been peddled in this city to where people outside the area have heard about what's going on in Walled Lake, but you want to bring in business? You want people to move into this town? Excuse me? We're trying to protect our trees. My trees are falling over because now they're standing in 4 to 5 feet of water. I used to be able to step across the creek on the end of my property. Now I got to put waders on to get across it. The manipulation, the bullying. This crap has to stop. People, we're all adults here. We need to learn how to play nice in the sandbox and get the crap off the table and be decent human beings for once. Give a crap about your neighbors. You live on the water. You don't have to worry about the Pulte project. But so many of your backdoor neighbors, those of us who care about the elderly who can't come up here, move it to a space where we can all feel welcome. My God, people, seriously?
Okay, you want to hear?
I'll buy you a beer, but it's not gonna be a cake.
We'll get, the engineer give us his update that's on the agenda, we'll get an update on where they're at on that project. Yes.
Hello, my name is Sylvia Toth and I reside on 455 Sparks Lane in Walled Lake. There's a couple of different issues I would like to address. One of them is to support what some of our fellow citizens have already mentioned about the sidewalks. As many of you know, we have a small child that is still not able to walk, so we take her around in a stroller, and the sidewalks are absolutely not fit for this. I actually remember a couple months ago when Scott and I decided to take her out for a walk just so we can go to Nino's, which is walkable distance from us. It was nearly impossible to take her there as the trip hazards were so difficult, and the gaps from one concrete to the next was quite high. So it was hazardous to the point where, like, okay, we'll turn around. We don't need to walk her. It's fine. So that's obviously with a baby with a stroller. But the worst part of the example is a couple of years ago when my mom was actually alive. We had to utilize a wheelchair and a scooter to take her from one place to the next to make her life better. Well, I don't know if you guys have ever thought about somebody who is actually handicapped, but I would like for you to try to go in a wheelchair or a scooter or anything else on our sidewalks. It's nearly impossible. So Scott and I are decent enough people that we decided not to take any type of charges against our own city, but I'm a professional and I've taken several ADA trainings. You're waiting for a lawsuit to happen for somebody to tell you that our sidewalks are not ADA accessible. So I'm not telling you this as a mother because my child will be able to walk this summer. I'm telling you this as a concerned citizen. Our sidewalks are not fit for ADA folks. And if you are one, you never think until you have a handicapped person in your family how important ramps are, how important suitable sidewalks are. And it's very difficult. And it hurts when you're in that family, and you can only do that much from a physical and a mental standpoint. So I encourage you to do something about this. I know it's expensive, but if it's done right, it will last for years. And the other concern that I have is all of you are familiar with our house is in the famous drainage issue. Well, we've been dealing with the flooding in our house for about 3 years now, and supposedly the new development in Beechwood was supposed to keep a lot of that drainage water there so it doesn't come down on our street or down Leon to the lake. And also we were supposed to get backflow prevention down in East Bay. Well, I can tell you that either this didn't happen at all or it wasn't properly done, because just a couple of weeks ago when we had some rain, Ryan Wood came to our property and he will tell you firsthand that our good 70% of our yard was absolutely flooded. Scott actually had to go out in the rain to pick up, I don't know, a dozen sandbags, because we were concerned. Well, our shed was underwater at this point, but we were concerned about our house as well, to the point that we started making jokes like, well, our child may not be able to walk, but she'll be able to sled in our yard because it's all ice after the water froze.
Let's finish up, okay?
Long story short, what was supposedly promised last year for drainage area H, and we're not the only ones affected, did not happen. Beechwood came with a promise and the research that the drainage will be corrected. Well, it didn't. I don't know who is surprised. Personally, I'm not, based on historical facts for East Bay. But there's no houses built yet. There's one building that is somewhat in construction. So maybe we can make some changes and actually help us, the citizens of Walled Lake that have been here for years. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Mike Brewer. I'm at 130 Maudlin in Novi, but Wall Lake is my town. I'm 62 years old. This is where I grew up. Oh, sorry about that. You're good. I'm actually representing what you'd say the citizens past of Wall Lake. There's thousands of us. They all have a vested interest in what Wall Lake does still, even though they don't live here. And as some would say, what am I, Brian?
The unofficial mayor of Wall Lake.
There you go.
The people's champion.
Yeah. I'm really blown away that you guys don't allow, or that you actually allowed this, nothing against you, Bud, but this business of selling the pot over there at that corner. The building, it's not set up for that. It's way too much traffic for that corner. Now you allowed a parking lot across Pontiac Trail. These people that are coming in there, a lot of them have eaten a gummy bear before coming there. Now they're going to cross a busy street, Pontiac Trail, to get more. Who's liable for this? Who's going to pay the lawsuits when somebody gets hit by a car crossing Pontiac Trail to get to this guy's business? Is it the city's fault? Is the city going to pay for it? Or is this Jerry Millen guy going to pay for it?
Woo! Taxpayers.
You guys got a problem here. It's really, really big. And it's something you better get adjusted. And then one more thing. You're wit. You were on YouTube lying to citizens. Why are you even here? Why aren't you fired or resigned by now? And you guys that are supporting that, you should go too. Everybody here that supports this guy should be off the council. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I have one thing to say. You know we have to pay this man's salary to sit on his ass?
Oh, yeah, I get that. That's what I'm talking about.
You know that? I'd rather have him working. I'd rather have him working.
Mayor, you got the policeman after me. How about getting it after him?
And 170,000
You embarrass me, but you're not gonna shut him up.
Who gets that?
Let the police officer handle it.
Oh, but he didn't get in his face. He got in my face. But you handle people differently, who you like and don't like. I don't like the way you act. Jerry, that's why. Yes, and I'm going to tell you that. Next time somebody speaks up that you like, put the policeman in their face, please.
Send the police over to. Who got upset when that happened? Is there anyone else?
This guy right here.
Yes.
Yeah, go Jeff.
Yes.
I feel guilty. My name's Jeff Rondo, 1159 Wabasso Street. Been here for 31 years now. I feel guilty because I told my daughter I wouldn't talk, but I'm gonna talk. All this conversation about sidewalk, and there's not a goddamn one in this town shoveled. Why? I stood here 1 year ago, Linda, and asked you about the sidewalks. And you said the economy won't allow us to shovel them. Any decent community has clean sidewalks. It snowed 3 days ago. And another thing I want to ask, and this really it's a bee in my bonnet. I want to ask Van this question. Is it public knowledge, anybody's list of registered handguns they own? Is that public knowledge? Or does that information have to come through the police department? I'm pissed, sorry. Is that public knowledge? Is that available? Can I go on the internet and find out how many handguns you own and how many are registered?
Legally registered? I don't know the answer to that question offhand. You would need to consult with your own attorney.
I have consulted with my attorney. When I ran in this election, somebody had a list of my handguns that were published. My political opponents provided Jerry goddamn Millen a list of my registered handguns.
Let's control the language, okay? That's
Jerry
all I'm
gosh
asking
darn
you.
Millen, a list of my registered handguns.
Okay.
And he used that against me politically. So you guys really enjoy those seats, don't you? There's a whole lot more to this story. And if you don't think we're not paying attention, you're so wrong.
Anybody else want to speak? Okay, we will close the audience participation. And go on to council reports. First on it is EDA Chairman Ambrose.
Okay, sidewalks. If anybody understands the history of the area of the, what we call the historic downtown area, the area was developed in the late 1800s, early 1900s. In the front of the building, underneath the sidewalks, are coal bins. Some have been, they've all been abandoned or not being used, but half of those bins, or I should say those bins come into the sidewalk, which is private property. This has always been an issue that we've had to try to, I don't know, deal with, okay? Because we as a city can't go and invest or spend money, public money on private property, but we brought in Oakland County Main Street to take a look at it and see what we can do. We've addressed these issues several times, but they did an extensive report and design on these sidewalks, okay? We had their two architects, Russ Lewis and Ron Campbell, actually do designs and studies as far as what we could do to try to accommodate the businesses that are in that historic area and also to accommodate the traffic and the pedestrians. What was also caused an issue, now this was in 2012, and I have, I think Hannah has the handouts for us. You can see the plans that they drew up. They put a lot of time into it. This was part of, this was fortunate that we were part of Main Street because they did all the designs for us at no cost, okay? So these bins that are underneath the sidewalk, like I said, some have been abandoned, some have been closed off, okay? We actually went into the people's properties and inspected these bins, the ones we could get to. Unfortunately, some were blocked off, some had poured walls in front of them, but we know.
You're handing them all out to the council people that have already done the study, they already know about it. What about
They haven't seen any of this, okay? We'll have it up for public review when we get done with this, okay? All right, so, an issue that was created was the American with Disabilities Act. With that, we had to provide ramping, okay, which had to be incorporated into the design. So as we know, those entrances to those buildings are at different levels. So in order to be able to put in some form of sidewalk, we were going to have to elevate that sidewalk from 12 to 20 inches, which was going to require a form of fencing along the front, stanchions with stainless steel stringers, so that there wouldn't be that hazard of people stepping off of it. Also, what was going to happen was we had to ramp it so that it only could enter that sidewalk area from
the Pontiac Trail side or from the Liberty Street. When we got into the cost of the project, they were looking anywhere between, now, understandably, from a business standpoint, that should have almost been a deal killer right there. You would not be able to pull your car up and be able to walk straight into one of the front of the buildings. You had to go to either one end or the other. This was to meet the ADA requirements. Okay, so the estimated cost, and this was in 2012, was anywhere between $400,000 and $500,000, and this is without even knowing what was underneath those sidewalks, what part of those foundations were part of the buildings.
Did you guys ever do a soil sample?
Okay, so in understanding that, okay, we then said to the property owners, listen guys, you know, we can spend the majority of the money, of public money in there, but we need some participation from the business owners. And we need participation from everybody, okay, in order to be able to do this, because this is the duty, you know, in regards to spending public money on private property. We can only do so much without their participation. And we needed participation from everybody, which we didn't get. All right, now we understand that the parking and the sidewalks are an issue, okay? So, I mean, we can move forward with this again, all right? And there's Oakland County's suggestion to us was if you don't touch it, you don't have to conform to the ADA. But as soon as you touch it, you're gonna have to redo the whole thing, the whole block. And if you see from the designs, and we're gonna have them over here, you'll be able to view them at the city anytime you want, all right? They all went even around, Liberty went around the building because you said the different heights that they have there, you see some have steps at the both ends. It was really a situation, but like I said, it was no cost to us to have these designs made up. So, you know, we can look at it again going forward, but we are gonna need, you know, some assurances from the businesses that they wanna participate in the actual cost of it. I mean, it doesn't have to be the whole cost, but a portion of the cost, but we can't do it without everybody participating. That was the law, okay?
Did you guys actually ever do a soil sample to see if there's coal in it?
Suggested to us was to continue patching, grinding, whatever we do to try to level them off. Okay, so that, I mean, that was the essence of the report. We've got the documentation here from Oakland County. I know it's an issue, you know, and like I said, these were put in back in the early 1900s. And yes, the actual chutes have been closed off, but underneath the sidewalks, there are still coal bins in some of them.
Is that city property underneath?
No, in fact, according to Oakland County, that the county right-of-way only runs up to about, not the county right, but the city right-of-way only runs about 5 feet, and sometimes less, into that parking area. Into the sidewalk area, so, you know, it could be anywhere from half to 3/4 of that sidewalk was actually private property. That's what we faced. That's what we did with Oakland County, and they used all their resources to accommodate us, and they were all about, you know, improving downtown areas, okay?
Now,
So, I
coming
mean-
from the bakery end of it, I can tell you that we were told years ago that it was the other end of the block that was the issue,
Well,
not. Now, Jerry was able to replace some of
the
the.
plan, okay, where they drew the actual line, what they considered to be the right-of-way. They actually laid out all the buildings.
Can I see a copy of that?
Yes, we'll have it over here for you. We got extra copies.
Now, why was it that Jerry Millen was able to do some of his sidewalk in front of him, but
Well,
yet nothing can
do
be
each
done
one of your
there?
individual sidewalks, okay, you know, but from the actual full sidewalk standpoint, we weren't allowed to touch it.
You would think that the city would wanna step up and
Well, we
not
want
get
to.
another
Yes, go
lawsuit.
ahead.
Let me help out here.
Here we go.
First of all,
That's gonna
the
help.
sidewalk is not completely owned by the city. The sidewalks, most of the sidewalks, or a lot of the sidewalks are owned by the property owner. The solution that existed after what the councilman said to assist the property owners, and I don't want to pick on any particular property owner, but it would have been in the form of a grant to the property owner who would make a proposal to fix their sidewalks in front of their property. And the city, through the DDA or otherwise, would fund that in some way, some smaller way, but not assume the liability of it. That was rejected outright by some of the property owners during my tenure.
We were
They
never
want the
asked.
city and the taxpayers through all the city to pay for the entire process downtown. That's still an option if any person wanted to do that. City, at least in my tenure, has not fixed any sidewalks there at all. That's all been done by the individual business owners. But the option still exists to get a
proposal from a contractor to fix whatever you need to fix, and then bring it to the city and ask the city to match it in some way through the DDA. Those proposals open. It is not an option without a complete financial plan for the city to go in and dig it up because it belongs to the property owner. And that's our dilemma in terms of the city. We have no responsibility to do it, but we have a responsibility to listen if they want help. That's not the same thing as the city assuming ownership. We don't own what's underground, and that's gonna cost much more than $500,000.
Oh, and those were the numbers they gave us in 2012, okay? Approximately 400 to 500,000, and that's without even lifting up the sidewalk to find out what we were going to actually find.
Can you tell me when the business owners were actually talked to about this? Because I can tell you, my mother has run the business, we were never asked.
And I know that this
Okay,
isn't
all I
a,
can tell you, as far as, you know, being on the DDA at that time, we had Charlene Long working with us, okay, and that she had approached the businesses, and it might have been just the dry cleaners, I don't know, but she had reached out to them.
Now it's different, now it's just the dry cleaners,
No, I don't
not
know,
everybody.
I don't know, she said she reached out to the businesses, and there was a lot of resistance as far as any, you know, participation in any of the financing. So,
I would,
You can still do
No, no,
that.
we can still do it, but like I
Business
said-
owners want to get,
And I-
they want to get proposals on what to do and bring it to the DDA. They can ask for grants to subsidize what it is they need to do.
Why don't you
I
let the
apologize.
business
I don't
owners
want
know
to-
about this? You guys don't let the
I don't want to
business owners know
interrupt.
about this.
I wouldn't want to interrupt at all.
Go ahead.
I'm just trying to understand this. So you said that you weren't getting participation from the owners, so you're asking that you want, like, my family's business, Nino's, so you would want us to pay a portion of it in order to fix the sidewalk?
Correct, because it's private property.
But isn't it, excuse me, isn't it city property I don't know how to show it.
Well,
Like,
that-
after, like, a
Isn't that an
certain
easement right
spot-
there?
According to Oakland County, okay, it was less than 5 feet into the sidewalk was considered part of the right of way. And we have the delineation line written on some of the plans over there, we can all take a look at it.
Let's see
You
'em.
might be familiar with how, I mean, I don't know if underneath this, like, you know, under your particular piece of property. I did walk into a couple properties, you know, we were able to, some of them still had the open bins, some had been filled, and one of them had an actual poured wall that they closed the,
So how do you
staircase.
access that? How do you know if that's that coal, whatever, that thing underneath there? Do you have to go through the business?
You have to go into the business, into
Oh, well,
their
nobody
basement.
came in our business.
Some of them actually
So
have
I don't know,
to
like I said, this was in 2012.
So can we
This one
request,
will have a lid, so I mean, we can actually drop the scope down there and look around.
yeah, can we request that to be done, so then we can maybe take a next
Yeah, we can,
step
you know,
to the sidewalk
Right.
fix?
You know, we can move forward with it. I think the first thing we need to do is probably get some kind of letter of cooperation from all the businesses that they're willing to participate, you know, in, you know, just like I said, it's like a grant. It's no different than what we have to do out here with the, say with Decker Road, okay?
So should I start that, like, little petition thing, get it signed, see
If
who's
you
gonna
put- if you
cooperate,
put
and
with
then
the-
bring that to you, Mr.
Right,
Ingles?
if you cook with the property owners, and I can direct the DDA, we can also work with Main Street again, they still have the plans, I reached out to the one architect that is still
They would have
with
to come out
Oakland
and
County.
redo that,
Will
'cause
come
that was
out,
so
they'll
long
assess it
ago.
again, you know, and, like I said, those services are free to us, and they're happy to participate, especially when they have all that as historic information, they've done a lot of the groundwork already.
Casey,
I have a question over here.
Let me go finish.
The design is what Oakland County Main Street was helping with. But there's surveying work, I mean, there's gonna be some costs that are gonna be associated
If we
with the
move forward.
plan.
But it'll be-
And
Their tax money
where
dollars.
the property line is what's always held up the issue.
No, it's
And I
not.
think
We were
it's a
told
good
it's the
idea to look at it again. It sounds like we have property owners that want to participate.
have
So-
you had any type of
Well, I
hearing
think
or
what we should
getting the
probably
businesses
do-
together
We got new
along with the
business-
county? And,
Right, we have new businesses in there now, so maybe if we have a whole different attitude as far as people wanting to invest in the
and I
property,
would,
okay?
instead of asking each business individually, having the city get together, have everybody there, someone from the county, all of the business owners, so
Right.
they have a
Well,
So they have a
that's-
clue.
That's what we're saying.
Because
We
if
need
they're, you know-
cooperation from all the individual business owners to be participating in it. And like I was trying to explain, No
Well, no,
different-
and I understand what you're
No
saying.
different than us doing Decker Road, okay? We got $1 million grant from Oakland County, but the DDA is gonna contribute almost 300,000, okay, for the matching funds in order to get the $1 million.
No, and I understand that.
Okay.
But going to each business individually on that,
Right.
isn't gonna work, and I'm sure you're aware.
Why don't we set up some kind of a meeting?
That's what you're gonna have to do, or it's not gonna go.
I'd like to hear what Dave's question is, please.
You're not gonna get anywhere where you don't do that.
So, the parking lot, the parking has been an issue, we know that. And we heard a lot about the Main Street program, and I would urge us to get back into the Main Street program because of the resources that you just highlighted and the grants potential that they have to offer in assisting us with the grant writers to address some of these issues. But I heard a lot about the parking, and we have this parking lot across the street that we haven't addressed. You know, I was at the DDA meeting. No, I just- No,
Let him talk.
I have the floor.
Dave has a floor to talk.
So, I have the floor, so thank you. So, we heard a lot about the sidewalks, and it's not just in the downtown, they are terrible. I mean, there's barriers laying around that are blocking, you can't even walk on the sidewalk because there's like road signs laying in the middle, and you have to go around it, and it's really just terrible. We finally addressed some of the crosswalks late September, October, but we heard a little bit about the parking lot, parking, and I was at the DDA meeting, and, what I heard was that with this parking lot across the street, that there may be some funds contributed for that parking lot. And I hope that is incorrect, or I'd like to elaborate a little bit more on that, but the question about that parking lot is, as I look at the parking lot, look at the zoning ordinance, is that parking lot, has it been approved by the city engineer with the site plan and a review of it? Because when I look at it, it doesn't seem to meet the local ordinances as far as being paved from an ADA standpoint. I don't see disability parking, the egress off the road. I don't see drainage control, yet we have a fully functioning parking lot. And, when I hear I guess my question is two-part. Has our city engineer reviewed the site plan of it and approved it, and has it gone before planning commission? And part B is, the other question is the city contributing funds to that parking lot, as I thought I heard and understood at the DDA meeting?
First of all, those are questions that I think Mr. Witt plans on answering. Right now, Casey is trying to address the sidewalk in front of the businesses on Main Street.
He has a right to
Why
ask.
don't we stick on one subject at a time?
You need to stop shutting him down, Miss Ackley,
So I would-
and
I would-
allow
I
him to
would like to
speak.
reach the
He is
businesses
also a
to-
trusted member
You
of
guys
the
will get
board.
together.
I'm stating here,
If you guys can get together.
Gabriel's got
He's the only one with any heart on our city council. Please allow him to speak. I've got the perfect hat for you, sweetheart. You do not represent anyone in this city.
Sidewalks now.
He represents, she represents his
My
cousin.
God, you are nasty.
Amen.
Mr. Ambrose had the floor to discuss.
But he's sitting here cutting off Gabe.
No, I didn't. I just wanted to finish the discussion with
You,
you. This is
you,
your
both of you are constantly shutting him down. The man's got a heart.
Can we?
So we'll.
You
put
guys all
together-
should use a little piece of it.
Excuse me, ma'am.
I'm just saying.
So,
If you could go. I was still going. I would want to finish the sidewalk.
well, point of order, well,
Ready?
the discussion was parking the sidewalk.
Was
Sidewalks here. I know that.
My question was, when I had the floor, I asked on both. I'm sorry if I jumped ahead as far as what,
You're mixing the conversation.
no, it's both, because we've heard both, and they go hand in hand, because I hear disability, and from why we can't do it, and I'm hearing that we can't do public, people have to meet the codes and zoning ordinances, yet we have a parking lot that does not seem to meet that, and is being fully used right now, and we're having businesses that are struggling, and issues in that downtown area.
Town hall.
So my point of inquiry was, to the city engineer, have you reviewed the grading and surface drainage plan for that parking lot, and is it fully in code with the city ordinance? It is being used right now.
Yes, Mr.
Let me,
Microphone.
it's not about that, it's about what he's talking about, what the council is talking about. First of all, the councilman is talking
Microphone.
about.
Eat it.
The
Can't hear
councilman is
you.
talking about a parking
Put it
lot
in your mouth.
that the city was engaged with for literally for years with Pepinos. They had a mutual agreement that ran even after Pepinos left. The city spent money to improve that parking lot. The councilman did not hear me say that we spent money on the parking lot. If that was his implication, then he's wrong. What he heard me say was.
Point of order, that's a personal affront.
What he heard me say was in the past, the city partnered with the ownership of that property, and they spent money to connect them so that the city's parking lot by the farmhouse would connect with Pepinos. It helped downtown parking, it helped Pepinos parking. It didn't help a lot of other people, but they could have parked there because there was a mutual agreement. It's arguable that that agreement continues. In other words, the parking lot, the use of the parking lot continued. I think Mr. McDonald, I was surprised he showed up, but Mr. McDonald had an unfriendly discussion with the Pepinos folks after it burned, and they ripped up some of the stuff there, got rid of the asphalt that was down there. But we've had a long-running relationship with that parking lot, regardless of who the owner is, from the beginning. And the city did in the past help connect those two parking lots. The idea is to give traffic flow downtown. When they closed it down, they blocked off the parking lot, if you will. It was still a parking lot. It was still a parking area, even though they dug up some of the asphalt. So there's no reason to redo all that. If you're bringing up code violation and all that, it's because you have an agenda to stop.
Point of order.
What about impervious surface?
He's answering the question.
No, he's a personal affront. That is a personal affront and a point of order.
I wasn't talking about you. I never said you.
Point of order.
Wasn't Pepinos told they couldn't rebuild because that was the road they were?
The parking lot belongs to the new group. They said the greenhouse, that's a different company, but it's owned by apparently the same one. It's my understanding that they have agreements with all the neighborhood businesses to use the parking lot. That they don't want to walk across it, I agree that that's a long walk. That's like they wouldn't use the city's municipal parking to go across Pontiac. But it's more likely that they would use that thoroughfare now. So there is some additional parking that has already improved the business parking for downtown by virtue of the fact that he spoke here. There are people complaining that it shouldn't have been done that way, and they want to raise issues of code enforcement and violation. He's not paved it, he's not done anything like that. He leveled it out, he made it harder ground. There's no violation. If you want to find a violation, you probably can find a violation of people's parking from time to time.
He has a sign that
We got a code enforcement guy who hasn't cited him for anything, so.
Code enforcement won't call anybody back.
Anyway, we have not spent any money on it. You have parking downtown, you have agreements with most of the business owners that want to get along, and there are parking there. It is not up to me to order somebody to stop them from parking there. I will not do that. It will impact on all the other businesses that choose to agree with him. If you want to make a case that he shouldn't let anybody use it as a parking lot, you could probably pull out a book and do that. But as far as we're concerned, it's improved downtown. And what Mr. Miller does with it in the future, I do not know if he controls it or if there's a party control. But we have a working arrangement with the business owners, including Matt McDonald's place and the nail shop, and even across the street for those who want to use it. They park there, they can walk over to the wine store, liquor store, even the Bayside, and even to Nino's. They're parking there and they walk in. The issue before about parking, that really has nothing to do with the issue that the sidewalks. The sidewalks will create a problem if we fix it like the Main Street people propose. It will block off the front of those buildings. Not only is the cost going to be a problem, but the fix is not acceptable for downtown. It'll kill downtown. But we need to partner with the business owners that will partner with us, and we can do that through the DDA. It should start
If
with
you
the
just
DDA.
dedicated some spots to the businesses there, you wouldn't have half the problems you have.
So let's finish that conversation with, as far as the sidewalks, I'd be happy to meet with the Dino's people and any other businesses, and if we can get some kind of understanding as far as more participation, I'll get in touch with Oakland County again, and we can start the process, okay?
So, to follow up my point of information, I don't think I heard the answer. has this parking lot gone for site plan approval per our own code enforcement, our zoning ordinances? Any other business will be required to do it, so my question is, are we being treated fairly?
No.
That's the point I'm trying to bring up, because everybody is
You're
equal.
making a complaint about the building, if you
No,
are.
I'm not.
You
Yes,
stay
you are.
outside.
Let him talk.
You cut him off again.
More manipulation. Quit the manipulating and the bullying, Whit.
Let him speak.
Due process.
My question, my point of order, my point of information, which was, has this had a site plan approval by our city engineer, and has it gone before our planning commission, just as it would for any other business? It's not just a matter of, was it in the past, it's where we're at in the future. There's no lot striping. It could actually be a safety issue of how it's set up right now, plus not meeting ADA requirements. I don't make the rules up, they're in the book. We can't pick and choose who's gonna get selected. The building's been down for a few years now. I'm sorry, but, you know, this is where we're at. So my question still stands. Has it gone before planning commission, and has it had a site plan approval by our city engineer meeting the city ordinances?
Does anybody know?
Because you put the city at risk for not going through due process. On the right.
And
Oh, Jesus.
And there you have it.
Nobody knows.
there you go.
Did the parking lot. They're
Thank you,
supposed to have
Dave.
someone come in from the state.
I'm all done with the sidewalks, I think we have.
I'm not done with the sidewalks. I have one question. Linda, I have one question to Casey on the sidewalks. Dennis, you're doing a great job. Sorry for earlier, okay? But I'd rather have you working, getting a paycheck than sitting off. These guys want you fired. I don't want you fired. I think you're doing a great job.
You're not supposed to
Now,
talk.
3 minutes.
listen, I'm talking, so you guys can all shut up.
You gotta go.
Listen, my name is, I don't care, my name is Joseph Locke, I live at 1155 Wanda Street, come by anytime, I'll make you coffee, we'll sit down and talk about it.
Address the
All right.
council, please.
1155 Wanda Street, Wall Lake, Michigan. I lived in No Life Forever, yes I am, come on. Anyway,
Get a policeman after them, you did the other
Why are we
night.
not doing anything?
long story short is,
He's threatening
Dennis,
them.
listen, I'm allowed to talk, so stop.
You're threatening this guy, a policeman.
Just stop.
What they did to me.
Get him out of here.
No, he's running for me.
out of here. Got me there. Get a policeman.
Get him out.
So you want to heat everybody up and take a recess?
Get him out.
Great idea.
Nobody wants you here. Just go.
You guys are acting like a bunch of kids, Facebook, all that bullshit.
Standing up, acting like a child trying to call people out.
Dennis ain't paying me nothing. Who's paying you to talk to me like that?
Somebody's get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here.
I remember seeing someone.
You guys are all pieces of shit.
Where are the police? Exactly. You sent them over to that woman up there once, and you're not kicking them out? How terrible.
That is wrong.
How terrible.
I saw a police officer.
They went right up to that woman, that poor woman. They attacked her.
I need some.
How terrible. Thank you, Dave.
It's for the downtown business.
No, Linda, but I'll make sure she gets it.
What?
I'll make sure she gets it.
Get who, son? Okay. If we need some more copies, we'll make more copies. I just want to say thank you. My thought is to send them an email.
Gabe, what can we do to enforce you the chance to talk? We have to be here at every meeting? They have no right to cut you off.
I just hang in there. I hear you, Del.
I don't like that at all.
I don't want you getting worked up. Okay?
Well, she insulted me that last time. I will not let her forget about it. And someday she'd like to come off. She'd like to say, well, you know, is the meeting over then?
No. Stepped out.
I'll stand behind you 100%. Well, you are, and that's a very good point. They have a sign that says green. You should have, well, lake parking, and they better have.
I heard, you just heard there, he said that he shared it before. Hey, Lacey. Going through that sidewalk, that's why I wanted to point that out. That's why he kept saying, oh, he shared it with the kids.
Did you actually buy that one?
I gotta ride home. I gotta take you home. It's not yeah, it's over.
It's on recess.
How long is the recess? Until enough people leave.
That's enough to calm down turn it from high to lower.
You have to go through, follow the rules. That's all I'm asking. There's a value in listening. There's a value in listening. If you're not you have already do site plans here with the site That's the point I was trying to make.
Well, yeah, right.
I found out before. I had to get the engineer here. That's why I didn't answer. He likes me.
My daughter Lauren. Hi.
Kyler.
Nice to meet you. This is my dad.
Nice to meet you.
Grandpa, you good? Do you need anything? Okay. I have water in the car. You want some? Do you need any water? Oh yeah, bundles. I'm gonna step out to the car. I'm gonna text Jake, check on him. Coming out, or are you gonna sit tight? Weather the storm for a second. Do you want me to hold on to this, or do you want to take this? This is ours. You have sons. I was wondering. Are you taking them?
Yes. No, I know. I'll stop by over there. Get you information. Yes. I'll stop over and get my information and, see if we can get
That's right, and then it's up here, right? And then you have a sidewalk.
And they just did dollar agreement.
So there's a way.
Usually there's recess. So what do you do? You still go? You still go. Okay. I don't know what to do. Because if you end it, you end it. End it, but then like people are like, oh, it's over and won't come back. So I don't know what to do. I can't look at you. So let it run. I'm letting it run. I'm just letting it sit. I want to text people. I'm like, I want my phone.
But they can figure it out.
Yeah, that's my ugly mug out there.
bring your copy and show you what they had gone through and done. It's too bad. It's city property. You don't get egress. Even though you've been for 20 years. The whole bins to me.
I have to apologize to you.
For what?
Because I'm sitting in the chair, you got the camera like almost right on me, and I'm like, Susie,
No.
who is that? She says, that's Tyler. I'm like, I gotta go call her. I can't be an idiot.
No, you're fine.
Just by the site, you know.
I'm just here to stream the meetings, and that's it.
No, that's good. That's good.
I want to say it's like about half and half, right?
I never find a good angle in this room. Oh no, it sucks. It was never a good angle, especially like right now. I'm just like, put me in the corner or something.
Here it is. Session.
Right, that would be great. Yes. Yeah. Good. Best thing you do. That's all it is for you. I started out in that, and I decided I'm going to There are all
I was up to like 140.
which I had sold the property to somebody else.
I need to hook up an actual camera and get a full view with the actual microphone.
Okay, but so that just ties everybody up.
Yeah, it's hard to see them. I have one.
I got it figured out.
You know which one? You got 2 lens on there. You got 360.
That'd be interesting.
Any personalities involved?
It's just a shame that, you know, so many other communities already do this.
Yeah, I know. That's
Like almost every community around us does this, but Walt Lake. I mean, I don't mind at all to do this.
That's what you need to be using. That's done by the state Congress.
Thank you.
That's why we have
Don't even know that.
The next time you want to come out, I'd be more than happy to walk back.
We did that sidewalk evaluation.
Diane.
You wouldn't give us the money.
Give me the money.
Diane.
Give me the money.
What are they doing with the Oh, bye.
No, it's not.
Okay, it looks like, I know I passed out a couple of the plans to the business owners, a few copies to the other owners, and
I'm gonna
you,
stop
Casey,
in there and eat with them, and we're gonna put together some.
set up some kind of a meeting and
Develop a line of communication, then we can come to the DDA. Okay?
okay. So the next item is Public Safety Campus and Expansion Committee and the Trail Council. John?
As we met, and Neil Wolfson is on the committee also, and what we've come up with is that there's going to be 72 parking lot in expansion, along with a bridge that's going to connect that lot with the trail. That being said, that takes care of that. But that's only phase one, because what we're gonna also put in there is a police and fire memorial, along with other things yet to be determined. Okay. Now, moving on, as far as the airline trail is concerned, the Hawk system is up and running. It is in test mode right now, and this morning it was working, and working quite well, thank you. And as far as the interlocal agreement is concerned, that is a work in progress right now. Our lawyer is working diligently to make sure that the taxpayers of the city of Wall Lake are protected in this agreement. We will make sure that we're not going to be materially impacted by someone else's development. We will make sure that our taxpayers are protected. Any agreement that comes before us will have to be okayed by this council before it takes effect. That's the sum of my report.
Okay.
So I have a point of information, if I may speak on the discussion. So I was at the DDA meeting last week, and as I heard that from our city engineer, that he's in phase 2 of the project was already in place, and that he's submitting permits. Nothing has come before this board, this council, as far as design plans from the exploratory committee to go to the next phase. We would have to vote on the project, you know. We just passed the public safety millage last August. Our fire chief has said we need a new pumper truck. Our ladder truck just suffered a catastrophic failure. On this agenda, we're gonna purchase 2 brand new Dodge Durangos, police vehicles at $60,000 cost, plus an additional $10,000 outfit. There's no guarantee of forfeiture funds in the future, yet we're proceeding ahead on this campus when we shouldn't be, and it sounds like it's moving, a decision has been made without it has come before this board to actually vote on, and that's very concerning. My feeling is we have a major trailhead at the depot, the Michigan Airline Trail, in the heart of our downtown, which will bring customers to our businesses in our downtown. We need to be utilizing that. Let's get this property back on the tax rolls, generating revenue for the city. I would like to see some plans come before the council, if beyond what I've heard right now, applying for permits. I'd like to pump the brakes and actually have this council review everything before we go that far ahead.
What's going to be happening at the next phase of this operation, at the policing, at the expansion, is there going to be a fire training facility. I think Mr. Coomer can attest to the validity and the need for advanced fire training. This will enhance not only the city, but it will have an impact on our fire rating. It will also reduce the amount of insurance that taxpayers will have to pay.
Can you actually say that, or is an insurance company supposed to tell us that?
This is the word that I get from Mr. Coomer, I believe, that it'll.
It's an insurance service office, ISO rating, having a training facility. We were just audited in May, and the results came out in October, and that was one of the areas, not having a training facility and performing that type of training was, we were really lacking in that area. We're talking about shipping containers, metal shipping containers, and putting 3 of those together, and then, so it would be for public safety training. And we'd be able to practice right out our back door with ground ladders, our aerial, set fires, and the training facility, and practice search and rescue.
But don't most of our communities around Walled Lake go to Schoolcraft
Yes.
College?
This is
Because
not
they have
what-
state-of-the-art equipment already in place?
Excuse me,
That's a,
this is not question and answer. I mean, Jim can explain, but it's not audience and it's not a
Well, it
question
should
and
be.
answer.
Aren't we supposed to gain knowledge this way?
Shut up, Junior.
Let him explain.
we go to,
Let him explain.
we go to Auburn Hills occasionally. That's where a training facility is there, and they have a place where, like a flashover trailer, and you can practice. It's just such a long ways. And you gotta take your equipment, meaning your engine and all.
Yeah,
your
what about
equipment out
Wixom's?
there.
You can use
We go to Lyon Township, we've used their training facility out there. Same thing, it just, it takes a lot of planning, a lot of time, equipment away from your town as far as being protected. Wixom, they really don't let other departments use their facility.
Okay, is that all of your report, Tom? Okay.
That's pretty much it.
Alrighty.
Thank you.
City manager.
Let's start with the Department of Individual Statistical Reports I've requested to receive and file.
Microphone.
I'll make the motion to receive and file the statistical reports. Support.
Report. Okay, do we have any questions on the statistical reports?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I do. So just for the audience, because they don't have the packet in front of us, I'd like just to run through the report for the public, because you don't see these documents. So, last month, we spent about $28,000 in overtime. We spent $9,400 on a fake Christmas tree. I'm just gonna run through the report, excuse me, I have the floor.
I asked questions.
My
No
question is.
questions now.
Yeah, not questions, remember?
No
No questions. You can't participate.
So why did we spend $12,000 on Christmas decorations, and we'll be spending that kind of money
Amen.
in our downtown that needs to be beautified during the
Yes.
holiday season,
Yes.
like Farmington Hills? I would like to see us spend that.
Like painting the lampposts.
Moving on. So
Where's my tree?
on page 67 of our packet, we spent $9,800 in winter tuition in Eastern Michigan. I mean, we say we are struggling for money, yet we're spending money left and right. We spent, on page 63, why did we spend $350 for our police chief to go to the fire academy when we have a fire chief, a public safety director, and a police captain in place now? Are we losing an individual? Or is this?
I don't expect you to understand what I do, but you never asked me before. We have a continuing training process. My time is short here, probably not short enough to make some people happy, but it's short. Training the police chief, cross-train the police chief to be public safety director not only is prudent, but it saves money in the long run. The tuition you mentioned, none of it comes to me. I didn't send myself to school. I've completed my education before I got here. We train all of our people because we don't have a human resource department. We have this human resource division, and part of our process for training and being able to have people who can do multiple jobs, which saves hundreds of thousands of dollars yearly for the last 10 years, is by sending them to school. Everybody over there has a degree. You know, there's more master's degrees in this room than probably any neighboring city. I can tell you that right now. The people sitting here have, so that's what that's about. It's about training, it's about the human capital. You may not want to do it, but that's my prerogative. We save the money, the bigger bucks, because we have people who are educated, who have university degrees and master's degrees. You don't save money by throwing away to people who just sit on the log and don't do anything. This team I've assembled will suit you well when I'm gone. They can do multiple jobs. They've been trained to do multiple jobs. They've done things that other communities don't even allow them to do. And because they can do it, they save you hundreds of thousands of dollars. We have cut this budget by half over the past 10 years. You would still be paying that. You heard the auditor come in and explain what we've done. You were headed for an emergency manager. I was hired to do that. Part of the plan was to fix your human resource division, and that means training people. That means spending money for training people. I would like to speak to the holiday lights. Apparently you don't like holiday lights. I do. You got your constituency, I got mine. I believe City Hall is where we start to improve the image of Wall Lake, and that's where we start. That's why we
We just spent $1 million on
Sidewalks.
the city buildings.
What happened
And
to
the
the
surrounding,
millions that
and the
the
land
DDA
is $12,000 in Christmas decorations?
Come on, I don't wanna take another
If
recess.
they want to talk, let them talk. I'll listen.
It's ridiculous.
What happened to the millions that the DDA had not too long ago? Where did that money go?
What?
I was gonna pass it off.
I'm good with that. If that answers his question, I
have one more point, inquiry then on code enforcement. I see one code enforcement in downtown by Liberty Street, but when I look behind the buildings at the alleyway, to the left, and maybe this would help with some of the problems we've been having in our downtown with the back alleyway. Like, you can't get down the alleyway. It almost looks like a public safety issue. Like, if there was a fire or something, you couldn't get a truck behind the buildings because it's just debris.
You're absolutely right, and your constituents, some of them are sitting there right there, are the ones in charge of the alley. They own it, they park boats on their property illegally in violation, and so we simply encourage them to go. We don't
So
put
why is
anybody
it not
in jail and all
enforced?
that. But some of those people are in this room right now. The alleyway, it should be accessible. You're absolutely right, Councilman, they should be accessible. But they're not, because those people don't comply. We simply don't write everybody a ticket. We try to get compliance. We have to be very patient to deal with some of these folks. And that's what we're doing.
Well, I hear they're calling code enforcement, but they're not responding, so I guess I'm trying to sort out if it's they're not responding or they're not working. I don't
That's
know.
the best code enforcement operation we've ever had.
I disagree with that one, because let me explain
One is
something.
virtually incompetent. We got one now that knows what he's doing. We deal in compliance.
badmouth
We don't
Jeff
do
when he's
anything.
not here anymore.
Wow.
Citizens tickets for not doing the sidewalks. We don't do that. We ask them, we push them, we nudge them. But we don't write tickets and mess with our residents. That is not the way to do code enforcement.
I also thought your hair looked better when it wasn't gray.
Okay, any more questions?
No, thank you.
But it's not there anymore, so.
Presentation, I invited the,
Can we vote on?
You have to vote
Can we vote on
file
first?
and receipt. But I have one more, so I don't.
I know, I'm not gonna skip over you. Roll call, please.
Costanzo,
Yes.
Black,
Yes.
Goodland,
Yes.
Osnick,
Yes.
Woods,
Yes.
Ambrose,
Yes.
Ackley.
Yes, okay, go ahead.
I'm gonna have the engineer, the consulting engineer, give us an update on some of our grants and what we've been doing, what we can't do, and I will also ask that he speak to the Pulte issue, while we're here, while it came up, and, I think it's very useful, some of the stuff that was stated, kind of a little bit off the mark. So, if I can get the engineer to start with, the SIMCOG grants and things first, and
Sure.
address the council.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and City Council. Quickly, I'm going to go through the current status on the storm beautification project for the downtown and related Mercer Beach grants. Hold on a sec, sorry. Just a brief introduction as to what's been done to this point. There was a storm sewer study done in the downtown area in 2017. At that time, there was a recommendation to do storm sewer replacements in the area. Obviously, they're in poor condition, and there were a lot of issues that are currently happening now as in the past. A lot of repairs that have been done in the past with varying problems. At the time that we did the study, we determined some available funding assistance options, and then with the support of the City Council and DDA, we applied for 3 grants at the time. The first grant was from Eagle, or used to be MDEQ. It was a non-point source grant. This was the largest of the 3 grants that we tried to apply for. This one would have been a $750,000 grant. We tried 2 times to get this grant and failed on both occasions. The primary reason for that is the discharge. It is a point source type of grant, and they were more suited to discharging to a drain than they were a lake. So that was the biggest problem to try to overcome, and we almost got it. We were very close, but we could not get it. The next two grants were actually submitted by McKenna Associates. One is the SEMCOG grant for the bioswale project. This one was awarded $46,500 with a estimated construction cost of around $230,000. We received that last summer, and there's a conditional completion date that was 2020, but we were able to extend that to the end of the fiscal year, which is in June of 2021. There is some importance to that because we're trying to coordinate the two grants between the SEMCOG and the DNR grant to make sure that we can apply both grants to this project. The DNR grant was the other grant that was applied for by McKenna Associates. This one, there is a recommendation for approval from the DNR on this for $63,700. This is a pending grant simply because this has to go through federal submittal process, and then plan review by the DNR, and then final approval so we can put the project out to bid. So that was approved in December of 2019, and we're in the process right now of putting in some documents together for the federal government. Just to kind of give an idea of what the scopes are of the grants, basically this includes some bioswale work, which is the green area shaded here. What that is it's a stormwater control, helps clean the water as it's going into the bioswale before discharging into the storm system. It'll also help with controlling erosion going across the beach area, which currently happens. Also, there's going to be some improvements to the playground, minor improvements, doing some work on the fall-safe material, and also working on the street lighting that's in here, or beach lighting, if you want to call it that. The poles there need to be replaced with something a little more suitable. And just some other typical things you'd see on a beach with benches and fencing and that type of thing. We are going to be improving the fence through here that currently exists to something with better material. Also, the sidewalk is going to be replaced through the whole stretch. This is going to be completed. I guess the idea is to have that concurrent with some work that I'm going to be talking about shortly. This is just a quick representation of a lot of the runoff that occurs. We get runoff in both of these areas, primarily in here though, where you get a lot of washouts that occur from the street.
Is that why it gets closed all the time?
Part of the reason, I guess. I'm not sure. This is one an idea of the tributary area that contributes stormwater runoff. To the beach. As you can see, it goes all the way past Northport Street, and this entire area comes down into this Mercer Beach proper. So the idea is to try to do some kind of project that will help control that stormwater. Here's some of the features that we were talking about earlier on the beach: so the bench work, the sidewalk, the fence work. This is where the bioswale is going to be located, that kind of thing. We're going to be doing some improvements to the drainage in this area as well. This gives you an idea of what a bioretention would look like, or how it functions. You got a bioswale, you got a pipe underneath, and that helps filter out the water, and it drains into the storm sewer system from the bottom pipe. What else? Okay, this is the storm sewer system. It's a rough representation of what the storm sewer system is going to look like if the improvements are approved. Basically, the idea is to upsize the piping through this whole entire area and have a discharge to the lake over here, removing the discharge that goes currently to the beach to improve the beach condition, and then having some mechanical pretreatment for the discharge, which is required. The pipe, like I said, the pipe on the beach will be removed. The estimated cost of doing this work is at $630,000. The engineering, design, and the construction administration services, that includes all the grant work that we're doing, is at $160,000 for the entire project. And an easement obviously would be required through this area where there's an existing storm pipe now, but we'd establish a permanent easement there. So basically what this will do is this will create better stormwater control so that that large tributary area I was talking about doesn't just come across and wash out the beach. That'll help not only protect the beach, but also protect the bioswale area, which is going to be where you're putting a lot of money. This kind of gives you a rough idea too of the cost breakdown. This would be the beach area we were just looking, or the area around the beach that we were just looking at for the storm sewer work. It'll also go up Ferndale, or Ferland, I'm sorry, geez. From the street and then possibly going up to Martin Street to improve the pipe through this area. The pipe is in bad condition all the way through here. And then the beach work, obviously the two grants would apply to area within the green section. Now roughly this would be the schedule that we're looking at right now. We need to get moving right away for completion of the design and bids this winter so that we can get some good bids. You want to do bids during the winter time, that's when you get the best bang for your buck. Construction can start later in the year, depends on how the grants work, but that's the idea at this point. And like I said, the completion of the project can be pushed to June of next year, again, based on grants and how they work. So we're working on that currently. So basically for consideration is addressing these issues. It helps control the beach erosion, it helps allows the permanent connection between both of these projects. Overall cost, when you group the projects together, overall cost goes down. The downtown storm sewer upgrades that were mentioned in 2017, this would address a good portion of that. This is probably the largest section of piping that would be needed for the downtown area, especially that discharge to the lake. Their estimated cost for all of the work is right around $800,000. That's for everything that includes the grants. So if the grants get taken off that, it would drop that total to around $700,000, give or take. So with that, oh,
Can you go back
sorry,
for
sure.
a second?
So if anybody has any questions?
Is most of that pretty dependent on you getting a grant?
We will, when we get to the point where we gotta put together a budget, just like any other planning session, we have to do certain things before we to talk to the council. That gets in the way of progress. You can't get anything done like that. Council is a legislative body. When we get the final plan that you gotta vote on, then we bring it to you. That applies to the public safety campus or anything else. Whatever we're doing comes to the body when, as a matter of law, we need the vote.
Correct.
The vote to spend the money, to budget the money. So in this case, we're probably not ready to do that part yet, but it's around the corner, and we would like to get that done sooner than later, so we would like to have it done, start this coming year.
Yes.
So when it's time to do construction, which means at the next meeting or the meeting afterward, we may have some numbers for you, but
Yep.
we've given similar discussions at the DDA meetings, and so when we need to start spending the money, that's when it gets here. We don't bring you the middle stuff, we don't give you the hypotheticals, we don't give you the preliminary plans until it's time to vote on spending money. You control the purse strings, the rest of it we have to put together a plan, and it may not end up that way, but once we bring it to you, that's what we plan to do. So we probably, maybe the next meeting, a month from now,
I would say so, yes.
a month from now, we're gonna bring you stuff to vote on, to spend the money, to do some of that stuff downtown. You finished with this one?
Yes, I am.
I would like you to give us a quick update, give the council and the audience a quick update on the Pulte project, because we heard some remarks about the Pulte projects affecting the drainage. So I'd like you to give your professional opinion as our city consulting engineer about what that project's doing to the drainage, or how that affected our last flood, if you will, deluge. I was here, I was in the street, the weekends and all, it rained a lot of rain.
Right.
So can you give?
Yes, so basically where they're at with the project right now, they've completed drainage improvements along the Leon Road ditch line. They have completed all the infrastructure work within the development. The road is in place. They're working on, well, not all the infrastructure, they're still finishing the storm sewer system. Right now, they finished the storm sewer system on the north side of the property. They're having rear yard drainage for their property. But on the south side, they are still doing fill in that area. And once they finish the fill work, they can finish the storm sewer work. At that time, they will put in the rest of the storm sewer system to go into the ditch to do their discharging. Currently, there is no discharging right now. They have to pump that water out through a storm sewer system of force main, and that is not in place currently. So once they do that, they'll be discharging at a rate of around 36 gallons a minute, which is a very slow rate into the ditch. That was something that I reviewed. And it was something that their engineers had convinced us that it would provide very little impact to the wetland that's down there by the lake.
Wait, Brad, you just said that there's no discharge occurring right now?
There is no discharge occurring currently. We also have, the city has been doing some work with the county, checking the discharge system from the wetland to the lake. There was a restriction at the lake where there was a 6-inch discharge into the lake, but the pipe upstream of that was a 15-inch. The 15-inch pipe is what the design for the Pulte system needed, and the county has since improved that. They've reopened that line up to the lake now, and they have done an inspection of the pipe, and have indicated that the pipe was fine. I haven't seen the video of that pipe, but they have indicated it was fine for the discharge. But I'm still looking into that, so that's a we'll wait and see on that.
That's the same one that's
So-
flooding people's yards?
They did the pipes on Leon, so there is more of a water flow going down the street because, there's more pipes that are there. They put in the concrete pipes that they ran, the metal pipes that they ran under the ground down that street, so there is more water flowing downhill just because of how they, put the new pipes in. But when it was explained, there's two issues going on over there. I live over that way. First of all, you can't see across that field any longer because they've raised the elevation 10 more feet. So just, water's being pushed off into those yards on both sides because they've raised the elevation that much higher. You could see across. So it's just naturally, that was never presented by the developer. He never said that to the residents when he spoke in front of his body, that they're gonna raise the homes up and they're looking up. You can't even see across because the road is up in the air to 8-10 feet, just like what happened at East Bay. So we're sort of having a repeat. And one of my concerns that I had before this body was the flooding because of that area. The pipe itself, it's going to flood. When it was talked about before this body, he made it sound in front of all the residents that he was going to string it all the way down to the lake and discharge directly into the lake, not make that hard left turn that it does into basically people's private yards. And there's more water that's flowing down there, and it's actually leaching up into their backyards, probably because just the upgrade in the pipe itself is allowing more water to flow down there. And I get it, that was a Pulte's engineer, but his interest is his customer, his client, his Pulte. It's flooding over there, and it's going to get worse, especially when they start discharging more into that area. I don't care if it's 16 gallons; it's still more. It's leaching.
Okay, yeah, I can address both of those. Basically, there was some flooding that on the Pulte project 2 rain events ago. The Pulte folks, they bulkheaded off their storm sewer pipe that would normally go to the detention basin because the basin was not completed. So they had that bulkheaded off temporarily. That has since been removed, and now the flow is going there. So this last rain event that occurred, there should have been no flooding on the adjacent properties next to the Pulte project, and the detention basin is holding all the water. As far as the drain along Leon Road, that is just an improvement to the drainage system for the road, but it also will accommodate the Pulte project. So in a sense, we got two things for the price of one, because not only did we get the improvements to the ditch, but the amount of extra water that's gonna be going down that ditch is a very very slow amount, and it's not gonna burden that ditch. And it's discharging to the same spot it was always discharging, right there before right at the point where it turns in. That's where it always went in, so.
I have a question, Mayor. Yeah, I have a question. Did the 6-inch restriction at the seawall, did that get corrected? Is that now a 15-inch?
It's now 15-inch again, right?
It is correct.
That's correct.
It's up to standard.
storm drain is
All the way.
It's up to standard. I just haven't seen the footage for the piping yet from one end to the other, but I've been told by the county, or secondhand, I guess, by the county, that the pipe is in good enough condition to have the water flow properly through there.
And to add to this, when the rain event happened, 2 weeks ago, big rain event, it flooded out Tri-A, I was there, I saw it. I agree with you, the water is atrocious in Tri-A. But I also went down the road in the Pulte property, all of the water, all of the runoff from the Pulte property was held in that back detention pond. It stayed, it didn't flow over anything.
It's not a fair representation to say the Pulte property at this time caused any of the flooding. The flooding was directly related to the rain.
Absolutely.
The water coming down the pipe in Leon would come down anyway. Water goes downhill, and it would be in their yards or otherwise. The pipe actually feeds it downstream. None of that water came from the Pulte property. I too traveled all of those during the rain. The flooding had to do because it was a pretty serious rain. There was a downpour that continued. The Pulte property contained everything. It contained everything. There was nothing that caused any flooding, and it's not fair to represent that somehow the Pulte property had something to do with the Leon. Leon drainage has been improved. Water's gonna go downhill, and if it wasn't coming down in that pipe, it would be coming down in people's front yard. So we're not at the stage where we're blaming Pulte for the flooding. That may fit somebody's narrative, but that's not what occurred. I was there, got pictures of it. Every drop of water that hit Pulte's property was contained during that period. It was flooded in Tri-A, it was all the way across the road. I got a few emails and text messages about it, we were there. That drained away much more rapidly than it had in the past. So we have improved drainage there, but it wasn't related to Pulte, and that's, the low area is always going to do that to some extent, if you have that kind of a rain. So.
But if you're changing the elevation of the homes being up higher than the normal part of the land, aren't you gonna get more runoff to go to the low land?
Question and answer, ma'am, I'm sorry.
I heard her, so I get the answer. We're not changing,
go ahead
there's
and
no
answer
houses there. And so, and there's no concrete, there's nothing that's causing the water to go anywhere, it simply isn't. So it's not fair at this point. It doesn't mean that somebody might not be right sooner or later, but jumping on the project now and blaming the flooding on Leon, on Pulte, is just not a fair representation. We need to pay attention to it. It looks like they raised it up because that was approved. When they put in the shrubbery and stuff, that'll be a debatable issue. But to sit here and for us to say, for management to say that caused the flooding, we can't do that. But you're gonna have that issue come back up as they begin to put in sidewalks and concrete, and then we need to pay attention to how that does affect their backyards. But the flooding wasn't due to the Pulte construction.
But by that time, it should be all connected to the retention ponds. By the time they get into the wells or the houses, right?
Yeah, yes, definitely.
Okay, earlier it was stated, and again just now, that pipe was supposed to go straight to the lake. I always understood it was gonna come down and go through that swampy area, and then out through the pipe, and out the drain down at 767. I never understood it was to come straight down Leon to the lake.
Yeah, there was no plan to
There
bring
was
it
never
down
any
Leon
plan
Road
for that, am I
all the way to
correct?
Lake. It was to go to the wetland, and then the wetland had a pipe that was an overflow pipe for the wetland that went to the lake.
Right, right, and I know that they have made improvements down in that area, they put a catch basin in and did a couple of.
That's correct.
But wouldn't part of the problem on Leon, down at the bottom of the hill, the fact that that drainage has been improved? Because over the years, you could drive Leon in a storm, and between the broken culverts, the plug culverts, and the debris in the way, the water couldn't get down the hill. A lot of it was flooding in the ditches further up Leon, am I correct?
Well, some areas it was actually going into, it was leaving the ditch area and going into the other yards or backyards. But some of it was being contained in the ditches as well, being absorbed by the sandy ground, that kind of thing.
Right.
Because they weren't functioning very well.
So now it's all able to go down and into the swampland.
That's correct.
Okay.
Swampland's not draining at all.
Alrighty, is that all of your report?
He's finished, I think, and we will have something for you on some of these projects when the money's required to be budgeted. And that would be how the council as a body makes their stamp on, puts their stamp on the projects that we're proposing. Right now, we're in proposal stage.
Well, I didn't figure you were gonna go ahead without a vote on it.
Well, that was implied, but
That's
that's
not the way we
not what's
normally do it,
So, I made that clear because it was implied that somehow we were proceeding without approval, but that's not.
Okay, thank you.
I'm done.
Mayor, really quick,
Do you have any more in your
I have
report?
nothing,
Hold on
move on to the next one, so.
Okay, any
Mayor?
correspondence?
Mayor, he asked if there were any other questions. Does that involve the community's input as well, or no?
Pardon me?
The engineer asked if there were any questions. Does that involve community as well?
It did not. If he has a question, I'll take it and then give it to the engineer if it's appropriate. You have a question?
I do. So for the beach, I think that's a wonderful idea, but where, if there's only that much parking available, where's everyone else gonna park? The nearest public parking would then be across Pontiac Trail. How are people gonna get there?
The question is kind of multifaceted. We're improving what's existing down there. It's not gonna change a lot. There is a shortage of parking.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying is if there's gonna be more
We're
people
simply
there.
improving what we got. To acquire parking, you gotta buy stuff. You gotta buy parking.
I understand that.
Partnering with
You're-
the greenhouse. is an
Wait, you're
option.
skipping my question entirely. I'm asking a direct question is, the next public parking that's available is across Pontiac Trail. How are people gonna get from that public parking to the beach? You're going from something nice to something nice, and you gotta walk down what? Thank you. So, I mean, if there's only 9 cars there, or that can park whoever knows, if there's the next public parking that's available for people to use is the one across Pontiac Trail to get to the beach.
We're trying to make that available to everybody. Yes, that's true.
Yeah, so what I'm trying to get here to, and what I'm trying to say is the people are gonna have to take those sidewalks down Eddie's and the Tiki Bar and Broil and the Greenhouse, Nino's, and the following businesses all the way down to
Greenhouse
Hank's
Nino's
Bistro and the
is
Segway
probably
shop.
not your best option. I suggest you go on Eddie's side and come down that sidewalk.
Okay, but what about the Segway company that wants to drive their Segways? Shouldn't they be able to go downtown and visit the whole Walled Lake area and not just go towards Driftwood?
I kind of hope that's all true. We're starting with the grants that allow us to do it in that area. We're not significantly changing the parking, but we are improving downtown. And as we get more grants, if we get them available, if we have some a way to fix Nino's Pizza, I wish I could fix it tomorrow. I don't know the folks. I don't know them personally, but I wish we could. Hi, how are you? I wish we could fix that tomorrow, but there are issues. There are issues that are much bigger than just pouring a piece of concrete. So we're working on it. This is where the grants came in. We look for it all the time. Nino's is on my plate now, just like downtown is. That's the beginning of working with people. Some folks don't like this guy Millen, or I think they call him some pretty bad names tonight. he's a businessman, I gotta work with him, and if he's willing to let us use that facility on the corner for downtown, even if it's a temporary basis, it's still an improvement over what we had. It was blocked off, you couldn't get in, so we're gonna try to partner with whoever wants to partner downstairs, and if it means partnering with Nino's, if it means cleaning up that facility, and we have to start writing people tickets and getting them, bring them to court because they feel like they're special, we're gonna do that this year. It's gonna change, we're gonna clean up downtown, and it starts with this grant stuff, so you can count on that. We're gonna improve your parking, and we're gonna make it better downtown. I
So are
can't
we
promise
setting a
you
date
anything right
today for an upcoming meeting regarding all that?
Well, I think the chairman of the DDA is gonna call a meeting, and again, we can revisit all of this. But we got the grant, so that's where you start. We got money to do some of that, and whether we can, I believe we can partner with you business owners, if you're Nino, if you speak for the authority of Nino's, if you're willing to come in and say, this is what we believe needs to be done, we got prices, can you partner with us? My guess is you're gonna get some votes and get some money. But you can't say the city's gotta fix it, because it's not the city. You'll have to fix it with our help.
Times and we get.
We need to come to that meeting, and then we'll talk about it. You come to our meeting.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mayor.
Yeah, that's right,
It was
because
a
we
good question.
already talked about setting up a meeting with the DDA.
Yeah, it's a good question. The parking is the big deal downtown.
I agree. But we can't answer all the questions tonight, because we don't know.
Hey,
We
Whit.
have no correspondence, am I correct? Okay. Mr. Attorney,
Just a few quick items to report on in the open session. We did receive a request from several of the ZBA members to revisit the city's zoning regulations that pertain to residential fences and single-family districts. They had a case that came before them, and we had a chance to take a look at those fence regulations. And basically the way it works now is that there's you can enclose your side and rear yard in one continuous fence, but the fencing in the side yard can only be 4.5 feet tall, whereas the fencing in the rear yard to the rear of the building can be 6 feet tall. And what that means is that you have an inconsistent height in the fence. You know, the fence in the side yard is shorter than the fence in the rear yard. And it was brought up that raises some aesthetic concerns. They did take a look at some neighboring ordinances, and it appears that neighboring communities do have a consistent height limit for the entirety of the fence, including the portion in the rear yard, or in the side yard. So if council is so inclined to take a look at possible amendments to that, it would be appropriate to refer the matter to the planning commission to do a study. They would then come back to council with a recommendation regarding any suggested amendments.
Ben, there were also two issues discussed on fencing, and the other one was the discrepancy in our ordinance, which allows for decorative fencing on the lake shore, but then another part of the ordinance says there can't be additional structure on the lake shore if there's no house there. So people who currently don't have a fence on the lake shore can't put a decorative fence because they don't have a house on that side. But in the other part of the ordinance, it says what height the fence can be on the lake shore. Not the lake shore, but the rear lot of the lake shore lot. So I think that discrepancy needs to be taken care of, so that the people that do have lots on the lake, if they want to put a decorative fence up, they can.
You mean in the situation where they don't have an actual building on
Where they don't have an actual building. Because the building department is treating the fence as an accessory structure.
Right.
So I'm not quite sure that's been discussed, and we just recently had variance on that.
Well, what the council could do is just refer the entire fence ordinance over to the planning commission. They could take a look at it and then come back
Okay,
with
but I think it
recommendations.
should go with those two
Yeah,
suggestions.
yeah,
not
yeah.
just
It would
this
be
one.
a good time and a good, if they're going to look at one part of the fence ordinance, I think it would be a good idea if they looked at the whole thing.
Because we also have a lot of fences along the lake shore that I think would be improved if people could get the okay from the city to do that.
I agree. So
And
yeah.
unfortunately, along the lake shore, it does appear that fences make good neighbors.
So if council is so inclined, like I said, you can refer this matter to the planning commission.
Okay, do we have a motion to do so?
Make a motion, go ahead and refer the ordinance to the planning commission.
I'll support it. Okay, we have a motion support. Any other discussion?
Yes, I did include a
Well,
memo.
I'm in discussion on the motion. Hang on a minute here.
Right, got a vote.
You ready for a
Yes.
vote? Okay.
Locke,
Yes.
Lublin,
Yes.
Osnick,
Yes.
Woods,
Yes.
Ambrose.
Yes.
Costanzo.
Yes.
Ackley.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're back to you, Van.
Okay, I did include just an informational memo on the Open Meetings Act. I thought it would be timely, after a local election. We do have a new council member, Ryan Woods. Welcome to the council, Ryan. And, so it's there, just, I included some information, regarding some issues that seem to have come up recently, so hopefully that will be, helpful, to council and to members of the public as well.
Okay, did you get the copies of that one made?
You know.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and the mayor did, she was able to locate a similar type of handout that was prepared by the Attorney General's office. It's a little longer, it's a little more detailed than what I have, but I looked it over, that was a very good, synopsis of the Open Meetings Act as well, so I would urge all the council
Yeah,
members
I
to
think
get a hold of
Hannah's
that
got
and
it.
to, familiarize himself with that as well.
Thank you.
And that's all I have.
Don't you want to go, requesting a closed session?
Yes, the last item is a closed session item to discuss a confidential attorney-client communication that would require a vote of the council to go into closed session.
Make that motion.
Support. Okay. Roll call, please.
Lublin.
Yes.
Osnick.
Yes.
Woods.
Yes.
Ambrose.
Yes.
Costanzo.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Ackley.
Yes. Okay, is that all you have?
That's it.
Oh, okay.
Madam, I do have a point of information for our attorney, if I may ask him a couple questions.
Okay.
So, just a couple questions. We're getting ready to go into closed session to discuss lawsuits. Just for the public that's here, how many active lawsuits is the city involved in, named in? 1, 2, 3, 5?
There are 2 currently.
As a follow-up question to that, for the public that's here, would it be possible for you to just provide a synopsis to the public on each lawsuit? Just a high overview of where we're at in the process, so that they know, without risking courtroom strategy, but just so they know, because ultimately, we're sued, they're sued, so they, they don't have the privilege to go into closed session, but they are here, so just a high overview of where we're at
I
these.
don't think that there should be an overview without you preparing, just to make sure that whatever you say.
Oh,
is
it's okay.
appropriate.
Well, what I did prepare for tonight's meeting is a closed session item, a discussion. I did not prepare anything specifically to present to the public. If council would like me to do that, that's something I could bring back at the next meeting to just put together something that is of a more general nature, that would be for informational purposes, that I could share in open session if council would like me to do that.
That would be great. Wixom does that with their lawsuits. They put a synopsis actually on their website for the residents to see exactly what is going on. Again, it's the residents that are being sued. They're the ones that are spending the money, on attorney fees and, all the costs associated going to and from litigation. I just think it's very important for good governance to let the folks know what the heck is going on as much as they can.
Agreed.
Great.
Well, I think it's important too, but I think it's very important that Van takes his time in preparing it, because there are definitely things that can't be.
Right, yeah, as I indicated, that's something that I could bring back at the next meeting. I could put something together that would be of a general nature, that would provide a summary of the lawsuits. It would just be information that it was a matter of public record. if council would like me to do that, I can bring that back to the next meeting.
I would rather have it just put on the city website, just let the public know. I mean, it's not confidential information, just a synopsis available to the public, rather than wasting another 30 days to come before council and then go forward, that's all.
It's no different than being put live now.
It will save a lot of everyone's time.
Mayor?
Yes.
The lawsuits are all public record, and they're accessible. So a copy of the lawsuit, you can read the lawsuit. He can come back and he wants to give a discussion about it. You can read the instrument, and it's out on the website, and the councilman's got that, and he has shared that. Indeed, I would like him to disclose which of the plaintiffs you've actually met with and talked to that is suing the city. You've met with them.
Point of order. The question is out
Have you
of
met
order.
with the plaintiffs that are suing the city?
Just say it.
Say it.
The
Say
residents,
it. Yes or no?
point of order, Madam Mayor. The city manager is crossing, I am the elected official, I'm asking the city attorney.
Exactly.
I'm elected by the folks.
Okay, are you making a motion or to have this done?
I mean, you have a motion.
Are you making a motion
Yes,
to
I would
ask
like,
the city
I
attorney?
would like to make a motion to the city attorney to provide a synopsis without risking courtroom strategy to the public on any of the active lawsuits that were named in.
Is there support for the motion?
I'll support it.
Hey.
Wow.
Record, guys, go on Oakland County Circuit Court and read it.
No, you gotta pay for it.
Yeah, but nobody ever.
What you can't go on is get the answer to the question, did the councilman meet with the plaintiff?
Point of order.
Lawsuits against the city. In the interest of transparency, let's answer the question.
ask questions.
I think that's a legitimate question.
It's not. It's not your life.
And that's why he wants to have a discussion about the lawsuit. He's working against the defendants.
Oh, no, you can't
Point
say
of
that.
order.
What?
Point of order, Madam Mayor. This is crossing the line.
He asked the
Can't do
question.
that.
We all like.
I'm asking the attorney.
I'm asking the point of
I'm
information.
asking the attorney to answer that
Why is it such
question.
a big deal if he's
They
willing to
would be
prepare
so-
something for the next meeting?
That should be a
Should
closed
a
session.
member of the council be meeting with a party
Oh,
to the
no, no, no.
lawsuit?
That should be discussed in closed session.
No.
Okay. Okay,
Thank you, Counselor.
roll call?
Osnick? No.
Woods?
Yes.
Ambrose?
Yes.
Costanzo?
Yes.
Locke?
No.
Lublin?
No.
Ackley?
No.
4-3.
So I still don't get an answer to my question. Did you meet with the plaintiff, Counselor?
Point of order. This is
That's
out of
not-
line of questioning. The discussion is over.
Observation.
To the,
Ask me all these
Point.
questions.
to the
I'll get
general
back to
public,
City
you.
manager.
lawsuits are on.
Point of order to the council.
Okay?
Are you not going to recognize the point of orders, Madam Mayor? These are personal affronts. These are out of decorum. Robert's rules clearly outline the decorum that is supposed to exist. It is not existent what we have going on right now.
City manager.
Barb's tainted.
It's no different than what happened earlier when you took off for another subject. Okay, we're on to unfinished business. There's a proposed resolution to adopt Robert's Rules of Order.
Madam Chairman, I recommend you re-adopt the Robert's Rules of Order.
Okay.
Make that motion.
Is there support?
As your parliamentarian, I recommend that.
Microphone.
I will second that motion.
All right, is there any questions? Any questions on it? Roll call.
Woods?
Yes.
Ambrose?
Yes.
Costanzo?
Yes.
Locke?
Yes.
Lublin?
Yes.
Osnick?
Yes.
Ackley?
Yes.
Madam Chairman, as your parliamentarian, I recommend you designate the chief of police or his designee as the sergeant of arms for the meeting.
I will make that motion.
Support.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ambrose.
Yes.
Costanzo.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Lublin.
Yes.
Osnick.
Yes.
Woods.
Yes.
Ackley.
Yes.
Madam Chairman, I offer myself up to continue as your parliamentarian.
I will also make that motion.
Support. Any questions? All those, or roll call please.
Orders of the day, that's not on the agenda. I tried to add it to the agenda,
Doesn't
so
have to be on the agenda, if there's a motion, they can go. That's what-
it's orders of the day. If it's not on the agenda, it would be improper vote.
Move to.
You,
You just make the motion and pass it, that's what your parliamentarian says. If there's 4 votes, then that's it.
it's an improper vote, Madam Mayor. Point of
Roll
order.
call please.
Costanzo.
No.
Locke.
Yes.
Lublin.
Yes.
Osnick.
Yes.
Woods.
Yes.
Ambrose.
Yes.
Ackley.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, new business, approval of recommendation of the CDBG funding. Was discussed earlier.
I'll make that recommendation.
Thank you. No,
I will support that recommendation.
Any questions on it?
Anybody have questions about what turnout gear is? I don't know, we have audience people. Turnout gear is something.
Microphone.
Tell us about. Tell us what turnout gear is.
Our turnout gear is the coats that we use for firefighters, and the pants, and our helmets, and hoods, boots. It's very expensive. And we have a list of the different items. With the funding, we would be able to outfit 7 firefighters, 7 sets of turnout gear. So we're looking at coats,
If we didn't dedicate
pants.
this money, we'd be paying for that, should we need it. I would-
Microphone.
So to save it. So to save it.
Okay, we had a motion on the floor.
Yes.
Roll call please.
Locke.
Yes.
Lublin.
Yes.
Osnick.
Yes.
Excuse me, Woods.
Yes.
Ambrose.
Yes.
Costanzo.
Yes.
Ackley.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a budget amendment. Resolution. Is there a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
Support. Any discussion on the amendment?
Yeah, I have a point of inquiry. The budget, just for the public as well, the original budget was 11,250, and it's up to 28,500. What exactly is encompassing on the increased budget?
Another third precinct from the county board.
Was that what it was?
State requirements and regulations, yes.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
Roll call please.
Lublin.
Yes.
Osnick.
Yes.
Woods.
Yes.
Ambrose.
Yes.
Costanzo.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Ackley.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we have another resolution for defined benefit. It's a corrective action. Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion, a resolution approving a corrective action plan for the city of Walled Lake's defined benefit pension retirement fund to be submitted to the Michigan Department of Treasury as required under Public Act 202 of 2017, this being Resolution 2020-02.
Is there support?
I'll support that.
Is there any discussion? Roll call please.
Osnick.
Yes.
Woods.
Yes.
Ambrose.
Yes.
Costanzo.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Lublin.
Yes.
Ackley.
Yes.
Thank you.
The next is a resolution, WatchGuard wireless video transfer system.
After you got.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Today I wanted a resolution to approve the purchase of a wireless transfer system with a server, hardware, and software. Pretty much right now, we take USBs and we take them from the car, and then we download them to a computer. What this would do is there would be an access point on the building. It would automatically download the video to a server, a secure server. We just feel it would be a more reliable solution. We did have the chance to talk to a lot of the local departments, and they're all going to that too, just to save the evidence. And
Do I have a motion and support?
I'll make that motion.
I'll support.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call please.
Woods.
Yes.
Ambrose.
Yes.
Costanzo.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Lublin.
Yes.
Osnick.
Yes.
Ackley.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next one is purchase of a patrol police vehicle.
This is a resolution for approving the purchase of two new 2020 Dodge Durango police package patrol vehicles. During our maintenance plan, we try to rotate our cars out every 3 to 5 years to cut down on maintenance costs and stuff. We currently have two 2013 police cars with over 70,000 miles that are costing additional money to the city right now. We're looking to purchase from Schumann, came in as the lowest bidder. We had 3 sources. So we're looking to go with Schumann for they're the lowest bidder using our forfeiture funds. Also asking for the council to accept a sole bid for the Canfield equipment. This is just to install our police radios and lights into the vehicle.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to add to that, we went with the Durangos for a reason. I'm particularly happy with the police cars. There's a delay, they had some issues with Dodge, so we're not gonna be able to get the typical police car for literally months. And then sometime after that, when they do reinstate that, they're gonna only do it for a couple more years. So we're in a position, if we're gonna continue our system of saving money by buying new cars and getting rid of the old ones at a higher value, we have to go with the Durangos and then put the other vehicles that are still in good shape on the road. But we didn't go up because we decided to change. We're kind of in the position where we have to, so we'll move up. But the whole idea of buying vehicles through the forfeiture fund is saving money from the general fund. And I think we've been through this for 10 years. That was part of the system we got here. It saves money. This is not some sort of a Cadillac change. We changed to Durangos because we needed to do that. That's what they offer us. We probably will go back to that if I'm still around. We'll go back to the vehicles, but the SUVs are what's available. They're a little more expensive, but we still got a good price, obviously, with Schumann. He's a solid business guy.
Well, aren't they going to quit making the actual police cars?
I thought I said something like that. They're gonna delay it, then they're gonna make them again, and then they're, in the end, they're gonna phase them out. So we may be in that business with the SUVs, sooner than later, so. That was a little added backstory, and that's why, because I heard some oohs and ahs about the Durangos, but that's the reason we're changing, not because the police department wanted to kick it up a notch. That's what's available.
Don't we already have some Durango units?
No.
They do drive very nicely.
Does Wolverine like?
Schumann's is the place to go.
Oakland?
Okay. Oakland, yes.
All right.
Did we have a motion yet?
Yes.
I think we did.
So we have a couple points in ours. So we're adding about another $10,000 on our purchases out of the forfeiture funds, but this is a perfect example of why we don't want to spend the forfeiture funds on a public safety campus. We need a fire pumper. We just had a catastrophic failure on our ladder truck last month. This helps make my case why we don't want to expand City Hall, the campus expansion, and use up our forfeiture funds when we need to give our police and fire the tools they need in our community.
Madam Chairman, may I address that? That doesn't make his case.
Point of order.
No, same thing, it goes down.
You just made a statement that you wanted to spend forfeiture money on fire equipment.
Point of order.
It's not legal. What you just suggested is inappropriate, it's illegal.
Thank you.
The
You answered
forfeiture
my question,
funds
I was gonna
are
ask.
spent for police cars, police equipment, police memorials. What you just suggested, that somehow we're doing it wrong, is based on your misinterpretation or misstatement on purpose.
Point of order.
What
Madam
you
Mayor.
said was
That is-
completely wrong and a misstatement. You can't spend forfeiture money on fire equipment, fire trucks, ladders, or anything else you just suggested. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Ambrose.
Yes.
Costanzo.
No.
Locke.
Yes.
Lublin.
Yes.
Osnick.
Yes.
Woods.
Yes.
Ackley.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we have an agenda here someplace, I think, for the budget workshop. Yeah, here it is. Okay.
That's what I'm thinking.
Looks like we're looking at March 28th. Does everybody follow it? Not yet?
No, I looked at it, I looked good, so.
April.
It's on page 127.
Don't worry about me.
Don't worry about you?
I looked at all the dates, they're all good.
April 8th is the
What?
first.
I couldn't hear you.
April 8th is the first night of Passover. So I'd like it to be moved. If not, I can be filled in at another date. Just, April 8th is a very important holiday evening.
I would ask if we could make that change.
I apologize,
Could we make it to the 6th?
not all of us.
I think we had a problem with this last year too,
Yes,
didn't
we
we?
did.
So, which way do we wanna go? We wanna go to the
We'll adjust.
7th or we wanna go to the 9th?
We'll adjust.
Absolutely.
We
This
gotta
was
come
just a suggestion, and I
Right.
apologize for not
That's okay.
realizing that, but
Will the
I
7th
had to
work?
check the calendar to make sure.
Will the 7th work?
Absolutely.
Everybody good?
I would ask if it could be changed by,
What was
within-
that?
without that week, not in that week,
Not that much.
possible.
When does it end?
Either a week later or
When does it
before.
Can we do the week of the 13th? Because I can't be here any of the week of the 20th.
The 12th is Easter. The 12th is Easter, so we, you know.
Well, I know it's Easter. I didn't wanna have one on
Good Friday is,
Sunday.
I mean, I can do it the 9th. If that, or you prefer,
Well, you can't make it that week,
I have a
right?
schedule that week.
Yes.
Yeah.
are we getting
How
too?
about the 15th?
I can do the 15th.
15th?
Sure.
okay.
Can we make it the
Did you
15th?
say you couldn't do it the 15th?
Good.
You could.
Yes.
That week, good.
Oh, no. I apologize, I'm not sure. I have to take all of this information back and turn it into my supervisor to see if I
Okay.
can make the appointment.
Okay, so we're gonna move the 8th to the 15th,
Sounds good.
okay? Okay. We're okay with March 28th since Bennett jumped to April.
Yes.
We're okay on the 28th, okay.
Would that be a full day? Or, I think in the past, we've just done it till about 9 o'clock, or, I'm sorry, 1 o'clock, correct?
Yeah, it wasn't an all
That is the
day.
intent, yes, just to 12, 1 o'clock.
Okay, then the 21st. I won't be here. I don't care if you hold a public hearing, but I'm not gonna be here.
I'm sure it's gonna be in capable hands with Casey.
I think Casey will handle it. So I'm fine with the 21st. I just didn't want a work session when I wasn't here. Okay, is everybody else okay with the 21st? Okay, and the 19th is the date we'll vote? Okay, do I have a motion to approve those 4 dates?
I'll make that motion.
Then I'll support it.
Okay. Roll call, please.
One question,
No.
one part. At these budget meetings, because a quorum exists, will we have roll call taken in minutes, however obtuse they may be?
We don't do strict minutes for budget meetings or budget workshops.
Well, we have a quorum in place and,
Yeah, we
you know,
have, I think we've given a roll call.
we've done roll call in the past.
We don't vote.
There's no vote, but if there's decisions made and we just reviewed the Open Meeting Act, and I would like the opinion of our attorney, if we want to interact versus just download, as I understand the Open Meeting Act, we should have at least roll call taken and minutes kept versus one-sided where it's a download to us. I prefer to have the leeway to interact with the folks presenting the budget and make recommendations in a public forum on the record.
We don't vote.
We don't vote on anything.
It is a discussion.
Mostly information.
Mostly presentation.
Yeah.
Well,
I would ask-
if you're just listening to a presentation, it's kind of analogous to attending a conference where you happen to have a quorum of council members present. The Open Meetings Act generally wouldn't apply in that situation. You know, as long as you're not engaging in discussions or deliberations towards rendering a decision, then
simply listening to a presentation where you have 4 or more council members present, that doesn't.
The budget workshops are the manager's workshops and the department heads. I hold the meetings in the council. We give you the courtesy to tell us when you can be there, but the meetings are run by administration. We make the presentation, we do all that. We listen to input because, you're council members. But we don't look for votes, we don't look for final decisions or crystallizing any decisions at all. That's what you vote on at the end.
Yeah, and that comes on the 19th of May,
I just wanted to see.
when we actually take a vote.
The input comes after the document is prepared, and we do that preliminary meetings when the manager and the staff has their meeting. We put together a document in a packet or a binder. You get that, you go through it, then if you want to call your own meetings and have public meetings and all of that and do something with it, oftentimes you can. At a public meeting, you can amend it right there. So that's when you get to do all of that. But the early meetings, the draft meetings are administration, department heads, and city manager.
Okay, roll call.
Costanzo.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Lublin.
Yes.
Osnick.
Yes.
Woods.
Yes.
Ambrose.
Yes.
Ackley.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we will go to council comments.
No, you've got, don't you have a
Kevin?
I would just like to thank everyone that came tonight and that stayed for this late night. But I do have a question to please ask everyone. The election is over. This meanness and this nastiness has got to stop. The division amongst our citizens is terrible. It really is. We need to treat our neighbors kindly. Enough of this. The greatest thing about Walled Lake is the sense of community. And this election has divided us. And we need to come back together, please. And that's it.
Amen.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Tim.
Kind of funny after she just walked her
I had a
husband
chance
home.
to.
Was that her husband?
I had a chance to do a drive with the police department, so, to go walk through the facility, hit all the details, hit the vehicles. You know, when they're talking about needing a vehicle, and trying to get out of maintenance calls, you can see that firsthand when you're driving and the vehicle's going through. But I got a chance to drive all the way through the city, every stop, every street, every corner, to figure out what's going on, where the needs are, where action needs to be taken, where it doesn't need to be taken, to understand that in depth. The 2 rain events ago, I drove through too as well. I took lots of pictures. You could see some of the water flow was better. Obviously, we agree that there's still more work to do. We need to stay on focus and try to get through the issues. If we work on everything, we're not going to get everything done. So I would just ask for patience on some things, right? So we can work on things to get through. But as we know, with the expenditures, with the money that we have, with the debt that we have, you can't fix everything overnight. And I think that's what's being asked of a lot of people. But there needs to be some understanding on how to get to the point to get the city back into shape beyond what we got caught up in 10 years ago. So that's what I wanted to add.
Okay, Bennett.
I just want to report that our library director, Allison Lobert, has taken a position at the Commerce Township Library. So we will be losing her, but it is a great opportunity for her. They have 40 employees and a $2 billion budget, and we're happy for her that she's got this opportunity. The assistant director, who's been there has been there for 7 years, or 5 years. Allison was there for 7, and been the assistant director for 2 years, will be taking over. Carrie Ralston, she's an accredited librarian, she has her master's, she's been doing a lot of the jobs along the way, and she will step right in and everything will continue to run smoothly. So we're sorry to see Allison leave. She's been wonderful for us, but we're also happy for her that she's got this opportunity.
Thank you, Bennett. John?
I tend to go along with what Tamara has to say, that we need to just lower the volume please just lower the volume and show respect for the person that is speaking. That's all that I ask.
Can you speak up?
Is that it, Tom?
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, real quick, just a quick heads up on the lake board. It was set to expire this year in 2020. They decided to renew themselves. That's how the lake board law is written. They can renew themselves without having to go to a ballot petition again, or a petition again. And with that, they are preparing the tax assessment roll for the special assessment district. So you would expect to see some type of public notices so you can know what your taxes are if you want to appeal it, or you'll get a letter explaining all of that very soon. So that is what's going on with that. In the process, if you wish to appeal it, and that's all I have.
Okay. And as far as the lake board, the amount that has been charged to the lakefront owners and backlot owners has gone down from its original amount. And I think the most anybody's paying will be a lakefront owner is $70. So, but it is a very important asset to us, and it is being managed properly. And those that recall what the lake looked like 10 years ago know that the lake is now 100% usable. And as people bring boats out of other communities, they bring other invasive species to our lakes of weeds and aqua type of insects and maybe even fish. Okay, so it's important we maintain it and we continue to manage it. Because like I said, it is what Walled Lake is. All right, a body of water that, when fresh and when taken care of, brings great enjoyment to us all. So, and I'd like to thank the residents and the businesses for their input, and that we will address it, and we will get on it, and we, like I said, with your support and understanding, we will work through these things and get them done for you. Based on what dollars are available, but we started, and we'll take it from there.
Linda, are you done, Casey? Yes. I would like to say one more thing, please. Sorry.
I'm done.
It sounded like you
I'll
was.
yield the rest of my time to
Right.
council.
I just wanted to say thank you to the administration for the audit. We have an unqualified opinion, which is completely different than the way it was 10 years ago, and that's because of you people. Thank you. And also, just in what I see as an important part of the audit, the pension, defined benefit pension plan, which has been a bit of talk, the part that we're behind on, 5 years ago was 29.45% funded, which means that it was over 70% underfunded, and currently at in 2018, it was 59% funded. So that is a 30% change. So the work being done to clean that up is occurring, and I'm proud of that. You guys should be proud of that.
Mayor, there's been, Councilmember Lublin missed my favorite part, which we attacked through administration and public works, the 23% water loss rate.
I did miss that. That was a good one.
That's not the obvious thing to people, they look at the fund balance, but literally for years, the city's been losing water. That means everybody out there who pays a water bill was paying the freight there. And we attacked that through not only through the finance department, but through the assistant city manager's office running public works. We made some adjustments and we made some changes as council did it. And it looks like it went from 23, I targeted 10% to down to 10% from 23, which is outrageous. We didn't know where the water's. All remember that they actually, to save money, they didn't repair the meter that came out of Detroit. That was some years ago. So the very first fix was fix the meter. So we targeted reduction from 23 to 10. And with the help of this city council, who contracted with the professionals, got rid of the people who were faking it, paying attention to the numbers, that audit shows 23% to 8. And that's what real management's about. That's what these ladies over there did, some of the guys, but mostly ladies. So that's my favorite part of the audit.
And Dennis, that's what you bring to the table. Thank you.
Okay, are we done with council comments?
Sorry.
Anybody else forget anything? Okay, Going on to the mayor's report, I believe everything is working okay with the smart bus agreement. There's Highland, but if you, Chelsea, if you'd like to.
Sandra, how about you doing that? You're the finance lady.
For the smart bus participation, is there a question regarding it, or is it?
No, it's just a little update on how it's working out.
Highland
Go to
Township.
Chelsea. Chelsea.
Well, Chelsea does coordinate it with Highland Township, but basically they are doing a fantastic job of expanding our ridership, and not only expanding the number of riders, but also expanding the distance that our residents can use the smart bus. So it's not just the smaller area, they can go out as far as.
We can go as far as to M59, White Lake, Highland, Milford. We've extended our area to about 290 square miles. So we are outside our SMART program distance, and our riders can go to any of those distances.
Here's one point with the ridership. Someone has been going to the villas and telling the people who use that a lot that we raised the rates. That's a misstatement of fact. It's not true. We provide the same service through this agreement that we've always provided. If a rider decides to go a further distance, which would be connected to that, then they may have to pay an extra fund. That's not a Wall Lake increase. It's a misstatement on somebody's part, a purposeful misleading of the people over there to fire them up, so we get the phone calls, I get the phone calls. But we've not raised the rates. The city council is not aware of any rates. We didn't do it. We've got a better service now than we've ever had, probably have more ridership too, and they can go further. But if they go into the outside of what we've typically offered, they may be, and you probably know more about that than I do, Ms. Petzler, another $1 if they have to go all the way to the edge.
If they want to go all the way out to Highland, White Lake.
Yeah, but it's not fair, again, it's a misstatement to go to the villa and tell them, the Wall Lake administration raised your rates. We didn't do that. We improved the system, provide the same rates, and you can go further if you choose to pay that. So there's a difference.
And it could be too, sometimes if people don't understand, they go outside the district, didn't know where the line was, and they hit up for $1, you know, so.
Well, if I may,
The feedback I get is that we're just purposely told that in order to fire them up, so. And they do get fired up too.
Oh, no, I know, everybody's wrong
They
information
talk,
gets
you know.
fired up.
so if I may point of inquiry, because they did recently change some things with their expansion, but they've also changed with the rates. It went from outside the city limits from $2 round trip to $5 round trip. I think that might be where there's some confusion, like where that boundary line is with this rate change. That is what the concern is, because that's a substantial increase. It's not they're going to Milford, it's if they're outside of the city. That's what I'm trying to get clarity around. So where is the boundary?
The same boundaries that we always had is still $1 each way. That has not changed, nothing.
That's what I'm asking. So where is the boundary that it stops at $1
I don't
and kicks
have a
up?
map with me, but
The map is given to each rider when they sign the agreement to be part of the SMART program. They are given the map of the Walled Lake District and the extended to Highland, White Lake, and wherever else they may want to go.
Would somebody email the councilman a map?
Well, I brought the map here, but I did print it off, and it's on their site, and that's why I was trying to get clarity, because it doesn't delineate exactly where, it just shows two rates, one inside the city, one outside the city. Like if they step up, that's what I'm asking, because I think that's where the confusion at the villa.
I'm sorry, where did you get that information?
This is on their website, and this is what they're passing out, dated November 1st, and that's why I'm asking why or where that $1, the $2 round trip is now at $5.
Our map is still given. You have to look at our map that was within the SMART program for our riders to stay within our jurisdiction, which is 14 Mile and Orchard Lake, Providence Hospital, Huron Hospital. Those are the Walled Lake boundaries. Our map, and then they have their expansion map. There's two different maps.
Different program, I stand by what we said, we've not raised the rates, anybody that's saying that's not reading the maps right, or they're just simply doing it to fire people up, so.
I think the confusion may be what was communicated on the map to the residents. Maybe we could put it in a simpler term or ask West Oakland to help us out with that.
Is our map posted online at all?
Okay, the next item on my agenda is,
That's not fun.
or on my list here, is the posting
She
of
can't,
agendas. I think there's a little misclarification here, might have been, I don't know, a memo that was sent out or an email that was sent out. It has always been the policy that administration, the city manager, and the clerk set up the agenda. And then when council gets to the meeting, if they wish to add something and everybody goes along with it, we'll add an agenda item. As far as council asking in advance for agenda items, we've never operated that way, and I hope that that's not going to be the policy of this council to change. I know I've been here on many a Friday afternoon briefly, because I usually get kicked out because the council packet is being put together on a Friday afternoon. And if we start trying to control the agenda, I don't know when we'll get a council packet. So I'd like to see us continue on the same thing. By the same token, we've kind of gotten away from what the line item on the agenda council report is all about. And I think tonight we had 2 items put on there. If you are on a committee or a board, well, for example, Tamara's on Parks and Rec. If you want something under that line item, yes, I would say contact the city and say, I have a report. Whether you're a voting member or like Bennett and strictly a liaison to the library board, that's still the same thing. A council report is to handle a board that you're assigned to, whether you're a voting member or just a liaison. And then your council discussion is a time to discuss an item that's come up or whatever. So I think that's a little bit of clarification there, and I hope we can still operate that way. It's been operating smoothly for a lot of years, and I'd like to see it continue. So that's why it was on my list here to discuss.
So, if I could back up to the council, the agendas, we passed that policy motion, the council motion 41218, to post the agendas in accordance with the Open Meeting Act when we do the public notice on the door, to make it convenient for our residents to put it at least on our city website so they know exactly what is going on, whether it be the DDA, whether it be the Planning Commission, whether it be Parks and Rec, that they can see it. We're already doing the document, we're already posting it. That's how actually I presented the motion back then, and it's no extra work that we're doing when we post it on the door, because we already have it on a PDF form. And if we're not gonna do that motion, then we need to rescind that policy motion that we set for the city.
Madam Chairman, it's a good idea to put it on the website, it's a good idea to put it on the door. You know, as a legal premise, we post them, we're gonna post them. It may or may not be a little more work, but putting them in both places is probably the better idea. But to meet the legal requirement, that's what we deal with. The website is simply a courtesy kind of thing. We're not gonna meet all of our legal requirements by putting our legal notices on the website. We should do that to be courteous. But posting, we don't stop doing one for the other. So it seems to me that doing both as best we can. The problem that exists will be if you've got a committee that waits to the last minute, or we just put up a standard agenda that has nothing on it. I mean, we can meet that policy decision by putting it up 3 days ahead of time, but then it really doesn't say anything. So if we have to notice a meeting, we're gonna meet the legal requirement first and then get it on the website second. But I think that the way to deal with this issue is put them in both places. But sometimes that agenda's gonna look different by the time it gets to the committee. You know, they come in and they wanna put something else on. The only time you can't change an agenda would be a city council meeting. If you call a special council meeting and you have something on there, then that's all you get to deal with. You can't put anything else on. You can change your agenda tonight at any time, any place. You know, there's a sort of a, you know, you can move to suspend the rules and do pretty much anything you want, as long as it's not in violation of another one. So I think we deal with that agenda issue by trying to do both. We're not gonna take them off the doors. I think a lot of people enjoy reading them, but a lot of people enjoy reading them. they're probably gonna enjoy reading them on the website, even if they're not up there. But we got a shot with them.
Okay. Next item on my agenda is my nomination of James Arnold to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Move for approval.
Is there support?
Support.
Okay. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Locke,
Yes.
Lublin,
Yes.
Osnick,
Yes.
Woods,
Yes.
Ambrose.
Yes.
Costanzo.
Yes.
Ackley.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Arnold would have been here, but his wife is out of the country and he's in charge of 3 little ones, and I figured it was gonna be quite late, so I suggested that he think differently. Okay, I need a motion to go into executive session as requested by the city manager for evaluation.
I'll make that motion.
Motion, please.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
Roll call.
Lublin,
Yes.
Osnick.
Yes.
Woods.
Yes.
Ambrose.
Yes.
Costanzo.
Yes.
Locke,
Yes.
Ackley.
It has been a year, Mayor. You get to do it again. I was surprised last year that I got a unanimous support from this entire council about a good evaluation. It's in the record. I'll be surprised if that happens this time, but let's see.
Okay. The next one is the city attorney evaluation as requested for executive session. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll support it.
Okay, roll call, please.
Osnick,
Yes.
Woods,
Yes.
Ambrose.
Yes.
Costanzo.
Yes.
Locke,
Yes.
Lublin.
Yes.
Ackley.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item that was added was to have a closed session for the attorney to give us an update on the lawsuit, Colias lawsuit. Is there a motion?
No, the DBS.
No,
No, this is
cohesive.
the one that's been going on.
Oh.
I'll make that motion.
Is there support? Motion dies for lack of support. In conclusion, I too would, even though he's not here, like to thank John for his presentation. It's always good to get a good audit report. I was here when they weren't quite so good, so it is, and I know how close we were to bankruptcy. And I guess I would have to echo the sentiment of a few of the council members, and I think really all of the council. You know, it just seems like the sessions with the audience have been getting, I don't know. I mean, they say it's my fault because I can't handle it, but when people start screaming and yelling at each other and standing up and saying a few things that probably shouldn't be said in public, language-wise, I try to do my best. And I'm asking the audience that's left here that will probably be coming back, you know, consider that. We're trying to give the audience respect, and council would like that, and the rest of the audience would like the respect of everyone. And coming in mad and yelling is not going to accomplish anything. We all want to make the sidewalks better in town. We all want to improve the roads. We all want to do everything. And we're trying to do what we can with the money that we have. We finally got a little bit of money, and we've come out of the almost bankruptcy, and we're trying to make some improvements. And we don't always make the decisions that everybody thinks we should, but we try to make the ones that we think are best for the community. So I would hope that we could start running the meetings just a little bit differently. And with that, we will recess and come back for executive session.
Excuse me, Chelsea.